Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Night of Genocide. Get Simulator, Madam, you don't want anything to happen to Sasuke. Chapter 41. The night climbed up the sky, bringing everything into darkness. At this time, most of the ninjas have finished their work and returned home to play and rest with their families. But the lights on the floor belonging to the Hokage are still on. The third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, holds a pen in his hand and keeps correcting. On the table that belongs to him alone, there is a thick stack of documents waiting for him to deal with. This Hokage, who has been in office for the longest time, inheriting the spirit of the first and second generations of Hokage, pushing Konoha to prosperity and growth, and bringing it to the top, and also bringing forth new ideas and summarizing the will of fire, is truly admirable in terms of diligence. Third generation, everything is ready, it's time to make the final decision. In the room, a figure suddenly appeared. There were circles of white bandages wrapped around his head, and even his left eye was covered. The only remaining eye was full of ferocity and resentment. Danzo. Hearing this, the hand holding the pen of the third generation paused, and his brows frowned slightly. But in the end, he didn't say anything more, picked up the pen and continued to write. A few days ago, Uchiha Fugaku organized the backbone and elite forces of the Uchiha clan to gather in the Konoha Guard Department to discuss how to rebel against Konoha, and even had a specific plan. These are the messages sent back by the Anbu, and they are undoubtedly accurate. Do we really have to wait until the Uchiha clan is ready to fight us to the point of mutual destruction? Danzo half closed his eyes, speaking in a calm tone. Based on his understanding of the third generation over the years, he knew clearly that the third generation had already acquiesced, but he was just one breath away from it. Otherwise, could he really hide what he was doing in secret from the third generation's eyes? The reason he came here was to give this breath, to get the most definite answer. When the night of the genocide came, he wanted to make sure there would be no surprises. In recent years, our Konoha village seems to be prosperous and powerful, but in fact, there is a lack of successors. The old ones are too old, and the young ones have not really grown up yet. The generation that should be held responsible the most, the fourth Hokage Minato, died in the battle. Among the three ninjas, Orochimaru defected, Tsunade and Jiraiya have been wandering outside and are missing. It even came to the point where you and I, two old men, had to come to support the scene. You know the strength of the Uchiha clan. Their evil Sharingan allows them to have the upper hand against anyone they fight. The clan leader, Uchiha Fugaku, is in his prime, and his strength is unfathomable. When they are ready, can Konoha still win? Even if we can win, what kind of losses will we suffer? The ninja world today seems peaceful, but in fact, it is turbulent. I don't know how many people are coveting the status of our Konoha. Once a war breaks out, our Konoha's power will be damaged, allowing other ninja villages to take advantage of the situation. It will be too late to regret then. Third generation, it's time to make a decision. We can't let the entire Konoha suffer huge losses because of your indecision. We must. Enough, the third Hokage said in a deep voice, interrupting Danzo. He frowned and lowered his head, so his facial expression could not be seen. But from his slightly trembling hands, it was clear that he was not at peace in his heart. Danzo looked calm and continued, I have prepared everything. As soon as the time comes, I will take action immediately. For Konoha, no one can stop me, not even you as the Hokage. Crack, the pen in the hand of the third Hokage was broken. He raised his head suddenly, and his usually kind and gentle eyes were rarely sharp. Danzo, don't go too far. Danzo still had a calm expression, with a hint of a cold smile on his lips. The two of them were in a faint confrontation. Knock, knock. There was a knock on the door. Then, without waiting for the Sandai to respond, he pushed the door open and walked in. It was Asuma who came to deliver the message. He rushed in, panting, and looked a little flustered. Danzo, who was originally standing in front of the Sandai, had disappeared. What's going on? Why are you so flustered? The third generation looked at Asuma and said with some dissatisfaction. He trained his son as his successor. How could he be so reckless? Asuma didn't care about these things at all. After coming in, he said directly, something bad has happened. The messenger of Union village is dead. What? The third generation frowned. What's going on? How could the envoy of the Cloud Shadow Village die? Asuma panted slightly and explained the whole story in detail. The third generation half squinted his eyes, looking a little serious. The envoy of the Cloud Shadow Village intended to kidnap Hinata, so as to obtain the bloodline limit of the Hyuga clan, the Byakugan. From this point of view, he died. He deserved it. However, he was the envoy of the Cloud Shadow Village after all. He represented the dignity of the Cloud Shadow Village. He died in Konoha village like this, which was tantamount to a great insult to the Cloud Shadow Village. In addition, the relationship between Konoha and the Cloud Shadow Village over the years cannot be said to be very good. With the extremely irritable character of the Raikage, an improper handling may cause a war between the entire Konoha village and the Cloud Shadow Village. Come on, I'll go with you to take a look, Sandai said in a deep voice. Noticing his father's solemn expression, Asuma couldn't help but ask, it shouldn't be anything serious, right? In the final analysis, it was the people of Cloud Shadow Village who were at fault. If they hadn't been plotting something bad and wanted to kidnap Hinata, how could this have happened? Director, if we can capture the Cloud Shadow Village envoy alive, we can use this to ask for benefits from the Cloud Hidden Village. But I should never have killed him. Things turned out differently. Completely different. The envoy is the face and dignity of a village. Killing the envoy of Yunying Village is an insult to the entire Yunying Village. I'm afraid it's not that easy to end this matter. It's actually so serious. Although Asuma had some guesses in his mind before this, he was still a little surprised after hearing the confirmation of the third generation. The third generation snorted coldly and looked at Asuma, implying something. Many times, whether something is serious or not may not lie in the matter itself. Asuma's eyes showed a thoughtful look, and he was even more confused. The third generation was a little disappointed. His son's aptitude for training was not excellent, and was far behind the genius ninja like Hatake Kakashi. In terms of his level of effort, he was not as good as Might Guy who practiced hard all day. But these are not the most important. To be a Hokage, it is important to have popularity and to be able to distinguish the situation clearly. These are what Asuma does not have now. But fortunately, he is still here. Asuma still has time to grow. I hope that when that day really comes, Asuma will have achieved the step he expects. The third generation patted Asuma on the shoulder and said, "You will understand soon. Let's go and have a look." After saying that, he used a teleportation technique to leave the place. Asuma followed closely behind him. The third Hokage and Asuma arrived at the scene of the incident very quickly. Accompanying them were several Anbu ninjas who always followed the Hokage. Seeing the Hokage coming, Kurenai Yuhi, Azuki Yugao, Might Guy and Hayate all rushed over. Chie, as before, stood aside. He did not stand with them. He just nodded slightly when the third Hokage saw him. After arriving at the scene, the third Hokage asked several people at the scene about the situation again. What they said was basically similar to what Asuma said, with little difference. But the third Hokage noticed something from their words. That is, from beginning to end, there was only one person who truly experienced this matter, and that was Uchiha Chie. And the others just saw this scene. What exactly happened in the middle? How did the messenger of Yunying Village die at the hands of Chie? They knew nothing. The third Hokage walked towards Chie with his usual kind and gentle look. "Chenny, this time it's all thanks to you. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid even if Hinata was kidnapped, we wouldn't know. I will personally greet Chief Fugaku and ask him to reward you well." "Thank you, Sandai." Chenny pretended to be slightly surprised, but in fact he was calm. "Reward? What a joke. It won't be long before the Uchiha clan is wiped out. What's the use of reward?" Sandai paused for a moment and said, "I heard from Asuma that it was you who discovered that Hinata was kidnapped, and then caught up with the ninja from the Cloud Shadow Village. What happened in the meantime, can you tell me in detail?" Qian Yi's heart moved. Is he suspicious? He is worthy of being the third generation, he found the flaw so quickly. However, he did not express it openly, but just said lightly, "After I caught up with him, I didn't know that this man was the messenger of Yunying Village. In order to save Hinata, I had to fight him. This man was very powerful, so I had to fight him with all my strength, but I failed and killed the envoy of Yunying Village." The third generation's eyes moved slightly, but he didn't show it too much. He nodded and said, "Okay, I understand, you all leave. This place is under the control of the Anbu. Immediately go to Union village to tell them what happened here." Yes, an Anbu ninja received the order and disappeared from the spot with a flash. Chenny and others did not ask too much. After sending Hinata home, they went home. This kind of confidential matter between villages has always been taken over by the Anbu. This is management. Even Asuma could not ask more. Then, the third generation ordered the Anbu to scout the scene and search for any clues that might be found. He returned to the office and looked through the window at the darkness outside. That Uchiha kid is lying. For some reason, Danzo appeared behind the third generation again. It was a battle of all strength, but there were hardly any signs of fighting at the scene, haha. Unless the strength is overwhelming, this situation will definitely not happen. Uchiha Chenny, interesting, getting more and more interesting. After a slight pause, he continued, the envoy of Union village is not weak, better than the average elite Jonin, and is on par with Kurochu Raiga who was killed by Uchiha Chenny before. The novel was taken from the Raleigh's website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. Uchiha Chenny was able to kill him easily, his strength should not be underestimated. The third generation looked out the window, as if he didn't hear anything, and said nothing. In fact, he had already noticed all this when Chenny said that. But he didn't expose it. It's not that he didn't want to, but that he couldn't. Chenny's identity was too sensitive. Especially now, Konoha and the Uchiha clan are incompatible. But he suspected the people of the Uchiha clan. It was like adding fuel to the fire. It would only make the situation more uncontrollable. Now, he is still worried about how to deal with the people of Union village. He can't drag the Uchiha clan into it. So, he pretended to be fine, asked everyone to go back first, and then he would come back to make plans. Seeing that the third generation didn't say anything, Danzo was not angry, but continued to speak slowly. Since you have such strong strength, there is no such thing as failure. In other words, Uchiha Chenny actually killed the ninjas from the Cloud Shadow village on purpose. We all know Uchiha Chenny. He is known for his calmness, steadiness, composure and intelligence. Did he not know the consequences of killing the Kumokage village messenger? Or did he just want to start a war between Konoha and Kumokage village so that the Uchiha clan could benefit from it? Or maybe, this was ordered by Fugaku. The Sandai was still looking out the window with his back to Danzo. However, based on Danzo's understanding of the Sandai must be in a state of unrest now. He continued, now my Konoha is still prosperous, and there are still people like the Kumokage village who have ulterior motives and want to attack us. Zhang and Huang were after we fought a great battle with the Uchiha clan and both sides were defeated. What kind of situation will we face then? Third generation, for the sake of Konoha, my plan must be implemented. No one can stop it. This time, the third generation did not immediately oppose and confront like last time. Instead, he remained silent as before. Danzo was not in a hurry to urge him, but stood there waiting. He knew that his goal had been achieved. After a while, the third generation let out a long breath and said, the Uchiha clan, that was the family that founded Konoha together with the first generation. How will future generations view us if we kill all the heroes who founded Konoha? No one will know. Danzo's mouth corners have been slightly raised. The third generation slowly said, there is no impenetrable wall in the world. As long as you do it, it will definitely be known by others. Danzo sneered, with a hint of sarcasm on the corners of his mouth. This matter was completely organized and carried out by me, you can completely ignore it. Even later, you can put all the blame on me. The Sandai's thin body, which was gradually bent due to age, trembled slightly. He turned around and looked at Danzo with a sincere look. Such a huge crime, all of it is borne by you, As it should be. Danzo interrupted the third Hokage and said calmly, you are the Hokage of Konoha, the branch, the symbol of greatness. I am the root of Konoha, hiding underground, and I will destroy all the existences that threaten Konoha. This is my duty. The third generation was startled, and a series of complex expressions flashed across his face. There was regret, hesitation, and loss, but in the end it turned into a long sigh. Alas! He turned his head again and looked at the darkness outside the window. And Danzo had left at some point, as if he had never appeared. Chenny and Yuhi Kurenai and others sent Hinata home. Chenny immediately returned home. What happened today was completely beyond his expectations. For this reason, he had to take action and expose himself to the public. After all, it was Hinata who was kidnapped, not others. Even if there is a risk of exposure, he can't help but save her. He knew clearly that his flawed words would definitely be doubted. Fortunately, the night of genocide is approaching, and he won't be in Konoha for too long. I don't think anything will happen. And even if something really happens, so what? With his current strength, there is really no one who can stop him from leaving Konoha now. One night of practice. On the second day, Chenny was supposed to continue some tasks that he had not completed yesterday. But because of the sudden situation last night, all the work was disrupted. Chenny received news early in the morning that the original task no longer needed to be done and was considered completed. After completing the task, he will get a whole day of rest. In other words, Chenny will have a full day to conduct the fourth simulation. This is also good news. He couldn't wait to try it out. With the Otsutsuki physique, Wood Release, Mangekyo Sharingan, and 80 God Sky Attack, could he fight against the non-peak first and second generation Hokage who were reborn from the impure world reincarnation. Time passed little by little. Chenny entered into training again, improving his strength step by step. In the process, he could clearly see the prying of others. It was not the masked man, nor Orochimaru. People with the strength of the cage level would not be so bad at hiding. It was the people of the third generation. The ninjas of the Anbu. Sure enough, although everything was fine on the surface, they had sent people to monitor behind the scenes. However, this approach was not incomprehensible. After all, as early as when he took action, he was destined to be suspected and doubted. This was inevitable. However, Chenny did not directly pull these people out like he did with the masked man and Orochimaru, but ignored them and treated them as if they did not exist at all. First of all, these were different from Orochimaru and the masked man. They could not cause any hindrance to him at all. Secondly, fighting with these people now is undoubtedly going to war with Konoha. This is what Chenny doesn't want to see. The system he has is the Uchiha clan extermination night simulation system. If he breaks up with Konoha directly, he will probably be surrounded and suppressed from all directions without the Uchiha clan extermination night. How can he conduct the fourth and fifth simulations safely? This is what Chenny doesn't want to see anyway. Therefore, even if he has a strong strength, he still chooses to endure temporarily. Anyway, it's just training, and it's not a secret. Just watch it if you want. As for the simulation, once the door is closed, who can see it? However, just when Chenny was immersed in training, the entire Konoha village was in an uproar because of what happened last night. The ninjas of the Cloud Shadow village attempted to kidnap Hinata, the daughter of Hinata Hiyashi, the patriarch of the Konoha Hyuga clan. As a result, they were stopped by Uchiha Chenny, Asuma and others who had just completed their mission halfway. The conspiracy of the Cloud Shadow village was exposed. The Cloud Shadow village messenger was killed. Hinata was also rescued. At the beginning, almost everyone cheered. They said that the Cloud Shadow village was stealing a chicken but ended up losing the rice. At the same time, several ninjas who participated in it, such as Asuma, Might Guy, and Yuhi Kurenai, received extremely high praise. Of course, most of the praise belongs to Asuma, Might Guy and other Konoha ninjas. As for Chenny, she was intentionally or unintentionally ignored. Even if there is a definite source of information, it is Uchiha Chenny who killed the Cloud Shadow village ninja and saved Hyuga Hinata, not others. It is still the same. There is almost no big change. However, what is very strange is the attitude of the Hyuga clan. Logically speaking, the one who was rescued is the eldest daughter of the Hyuga clan leader, who is regarded as the future successor of the entire Hyuga clan. This can be regarded as a great favor. But after so long, there is not even an open thank you. It is really too abnormal. Even if the one who was rescued is just an ordinary member of the Hyuga clan, it should not be like this. The high-level officials of Konoha also behaved almost the same as the Hyuga clan. The news spread like wildfire in the village. The top leaders were unusually silent, as if it had never happened. At the same time, several key figures in this matter. Cheni, because of his identity as an Uchiha clan, usually does not come to Konoha village. Others, Asuma, Might Guy, Hayate, Yuhi Kurenai, and Azuki Yugao were also nowhere to be seen. This made the development of things a little subtle. Some people have noticed that this matter is unusual. And soon things took a sharp turn for the worse and changed dramatically. They began to think about the consequences of killing the envoy of the Cloud Shadow village and Konoha village. And the war that is very likely to happen. Although everyone knows that Konoha is more reasonable in this matter. But they know more about the temper of the Cloud Shadow village and its contemporary rakeage. If you use 2 words to describe it, it is a reckless man. That irritable, impulsive, and belligerent character, indifferent to life and death, will do it if he is not convinced. Let's fight a war first. In particular, the relationship between Konoha and the Cloud Shadow village has never been very harmonious. The second Hokage, Senju Tobarama, was killed by the Kinkaku and Ginkaku of Kumokage village. A few years ago, there was also the incident where Kumokage village ninjas tried to kidnap Kushina. And this time, they directly targeted the famous and prestigious family of Konoha village, the Hyuga clan. But the Kumokage village is so powerful that it has always been the second largest village after Konoha. Moreover, they have always coveted Konoha's position and wanted to replace it. If something like this happened, wouldn't it just give the Cloud Shadow village a reason to go to war? Konoha is not as strong as before. The fourth Hokage Minato Namikaze, who was supposed to take on the heavy responsibility, died in battle. One of the 3 famous Konoha ninjas in the ninja world defected. And the other 2 were missing. As for the others, they are more or less not good enough. How can the old third Hokage, who is already old, fight against the Cloud Shadow village? When the dark cloud of war looms, when you are on the weaker side, it is really hard not to feel despair. Inevitably, some people began to shirk responsibility. Whoever committed the crime should bear the responsibility. How can the whole village let everyone bear it? So, someone soon remembered the name Uchiha Cheni. Anyway, the relationship between Konoha and the Uchiha clan is tense. No one can stand each other. Let the people of the Uchiha clan bear the consequences, and they will not have any psychological burden in their hearts. Soon, most people in Konoha village reached a consensus that it was Uchiha Chie who killed the envoy of Kumokage village, and he should bear all the consequences. But Cheni had never heard of these. For such a long time, he had been practicing chakra and ninjutsu. Even the Anbu ninja hiding in the dark and monitoring Cheni couldn't help but marvel. I didn't expect that in Konoha village, besides Might Guy, there would be such a hard-working ninja. No wonder he could achieve what he has now. I thought this kind of life would continue until the 4th simulation. But unexpectedly, it was broken. In the evening, there was a knock on Cheni's door. Dong dong dong. Cheni, are you there? A voice came from outside the door. Cheni could tell that this was one of the backbones of the Uchiha clan. After he agreed to join the rebellion, he enthusiastically invited him to eat food, but he refused. Cheni responded and went over to open the door. Outside the door, there were 2 people standing. In addition to the person who was speaking, there was also the head of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Fugaku. Patriarch. Cheni bowed to Fugaku. Yeah, Fugaku responded and looked at Cheni, his face as calm as usual. However, at this moment, his eyes suddenly focused, and his aura became fiercer in an instant, looking at a place in the darkness. It was the place where the Anbu ninjas were hiding. Several Anbu ninjas immediately became alert. Retreat. Without any hesitation, he immediately used the instant body technique to escape. They have been exposed, and there is no need to stay. What's more, that is Fugaku, the patriarch of the Uchiha clan. He didn't take action just because he was proud of his status and didn't want the relationship between the Uchiha clan and Konoha to become more intensified. This is giving them face. If they don't leave, they are really looking for death. There was a strange flash in Cheni's eyes. What a keen perception. In fact, after the ninjas in the Anbu discovered that Fugaku had arrived, they had already retreated to a relatively safe distance in advance. Unexpectedly, he was discovered just after he arrived. With such a strong perception, Fugaku's true strength cannot be underestimated. The confidant standing next to Fugaku was full of disdain, and he spat and said coldly, "These fools of Konoha." Fugaku was much calmer. The Anbu had been monitoring the entire Uchiha clan for a long time. How could they escape the powerful perception of his Mangekyo Sharingan? He was not surprised at all that Chenny used these methods. He turned around and looked at Chenny and said, "Chenny, I came here this time because there is one thing you need to know." Oh, Chenny's eyes flashed, and he had some guesses in his mind. Things related to him. It's hard not to think of what happened just yesterday. He stepped aside, invited Fugaku and the other man into the house, poured 2 cups of tea, and sat them down. Before Chenny could open his mouth to ask formally, the core member of the Uchiha clan sitting next to Fugaku couldn't help but yell. He roughly talked about what happened in Konoha village that day. Then he said indignantly, "Chenny, you don't know how shameless those people in Konoha are. When it comes to credit, all the contributions are from the ninjas of Konoha village, and you, Chenny, are not mentioned at all." Later, when word spread that Union village would not let this go and would most likely use this as an excuse to start a war, they brought you out again and made you bear all the responsibility. Even the Hyuga clan remained silent. Is it true that we in the Uchiha clan never get any good things, but have to bear all the bad things on our shoulders? Now people outside are clamoring about how to hand you over to calm the anger of Union village. This bunch of fools, ungrateful fools. His face flushed a little, and he clenched his fists tightly, showing his anger. However, it was obvious that on the surface he was complaining for Chenny's experience, but in fact he was complaining for the Uchiha clan. What? Chenny pretended to be a little flustered. In fact, he had already seen through everything in his heart. From the attitude of the villagers towards him when he was walking on the streets of Konoha with Yuhi Kurenai and Azuki Yugao yesterday, it can be clearly felt that the current Konoha and the Uchiha clan are separated, not a whole. And the hostility between them is already very serious. Under such circumstances, the vast majority of people in Konoha village would not have too much psychological burden to hand him over. Instead, what made him more curious was Fugaku's attitude. Fugaku is the patriarch of the Uchiha clan. A shadow-level strongman who opened the Mangekyo Sharingan. On the night of the genocide, he should have stood up to turn the situation around, but in the end he chose to give up and was willing to be killed by his own son. Now, his own people are going to be sent out to take the blame. What will he do? Seeing Chenny's panic, the core member of the Uchiha clan patted his chest to assure and comfort him. "Chenny, don't worry, this is not just your problem, it's also the problem of our entire Uchiha clan. The clan leader and the entire Uchiha clan will never agree to hand you over. At worst, I can just fight them. Are we, the Uchiha clan, afraid of these fools?" After hearing these words, Chenny calmed down a little, expressing his gratitude. During this process, Uchiha Fugaku did not speak the whole time. He turned the teacup in one hand and took a sip from time to time. After he finished speaking, Fugaku looked up at Fugaku and said, "Chenny, what do you want to do about this?" Chenny's mind moved. Fugaku was talking about what you want to do, not letting him rest assured that the Uchiha clan will stand with him. However, he did not hesitate at all on the surface, and said directly and decisively, "Chief, I listen to you." "Yeah." Fugaku nodded, picked up the teacup and took a sip, then waved his hand, signaling the ninja who came with him to go out first. When only Fugaku and Chenny were left in the room, Fugaku slowly said, "Chenny, what do you think of war?" Chenny said, "I don't like war. I remember that your parents died in the Third Ninja World War, and you were also a victim of the war." Fugaku's eyes became a little dazed, and he didn't know what he remembered from the past. After a slight pause, he asked again, "If one day you can avoid a war, what will you choose to do?" As he said, he looked directly at Chenny with a little sharpness. He knew that Chenny was a smart man and would definitely be able to hear the meaning of his words. Chenny looked calm and looked at Fugaku. "Sure enough, it has to be you, Fugaku. You really don't disappoint me at all. Facing Danzo's step-by-step pressure, you chose to give in step by step. Let your son, a member of the killing clan, let go. How could you be an enemy of the entire Konoha for him alone?" After a while, Chenny responded, "That depends on the price you pay." "What if it's your life?" Fugaku looked straight at Chenny. Chenny didn't give in at all. I don't want to. Unwilling. This was obviously not the answer Fugaku wanted to hear. However, surprisingly, Fugaku didn't look angry or unhappy. Instead, he smiled faintly, shook his head, exhaled a long breath and said, "Yeah, it's your own life, who can be willing?" Chenny didn't say much, but the tense atmosphere between the two had disappeared. Fugaku drank the tea in the cup and patted Chenny on the shoulder. "I will try my best to protect you. But some things are like this. You have to know that I will not use the safety of my clan as a bargaining chip. Our plan of rebellion is still in the process of preparation. It will not do us any good to break off relations with Konoha now. It will only lead to failure and put our Uchiha clan in an irreparable situation. You are a smart person, you should know that many times you are helpless. People cannot be the masters of their own lives. This is true for you and me. Not everything in this world will go as you wish. The longer you live and the higher you stand, the more you will realize that reality is filled with helplessness, pain and emptiness." Speaking of this, Fu Yu's expression once again showed a trace of trance. He sighed softly. "These few days, you should have a good rest at home. I will send someone to inform you if there is anything." After that, he put down the teacup and left. Qian Yi still sat on the ground and did not get up to see him off. People can't be the masters of their lives. Ha ha. This is just the incompetent words of cowards. What he advocates more is that my life is in my own hands. No matter who it is, don't think of deciding his fate. Fu Yu's visit could not change Qian Yi's inner thoughts, or cause any fluctuations in his emotions. Because from the beginning to now, he has never thought about relying on others. Very early, he already knew that only his own strength is the foundation. Therefore, after Fu Yu left, Qian Yi entered into cultivation as before. At 12 o'clock noon on the second day, the fourth simulation began. "The system starts simulating," Chenny said directly. "The Uchiha clan extermination night simulation begins. The current solidified ability, Otsutsuki Physique Golden Ability, has a super strong self-healing ability, which is comparable to an immortal body when it reaches the extreme state. At the same time, it can also absorb ninjutsu, and the chakra it can possess is almost infinite. Therefore, it is also called the Immortal Body. Would release Golden Ability, a unique secret technique created by the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju. It is a kind of bloodline limit, which is composed of water and earth chakras. It is a ninjutsu that the caster uses his own chakra as the source of life. 80 God's Air Strike Golden Ability, a type of bloodline net that maximizes chakra and transforms it into countless powerful punches, thus bringing an extremely powerful fist wind. Shake the sky with the immortal way, attack and defend at the same time, with a ruthless fist. Currently available abilities: Immortality Purple Ability Illusion Master Blue Ability Elemental Controller Purple Ability Chakra plus 500 Blue Ability Physical Skills plus 100 Blue Ability. Chenny looked from top to bottom. As expected, no golden abilities appeared. For him now, even a few purple abilities would have limited impact on his improvement. If he wanted to significantly improve his strength, he would have to have golden abilities. But, no matter how small a fly is, it is still meat. No matter how small the improvement is, it has to be taken. With a simple selection, Chenny finally chose the ability. Otsutsuki Physique Golden Ability. Would release Golden Ability. 80 God's Air Attack Golden Ability. Immortality Purple Ability. No matter what kind of damage you receive, you will not die, and you have amazing recovery ability. Elemental Master Purple Ability. When performing any attribute ninjutsu, the power will be greatly enhanced. Chakra plus 500 Blue Ability. Chakra amount slightly increased. There are 6 abilities in total. 3 gold, 2 purple and 1 blue. It can be said to be luxurious. Ability selection completed. The Uchiha clan extermination night simulation system starts simulating. The scene in front of him changed. Chenny once again came to this extremely familiar night. However, the surrounding environment had changed greatly. This was not Chenny's own room. Instead, it was a somewhat dark and damp place. It was pitch black around, with only a small window shedding a few rays of light. As this, the prison of the Konoha Guard Department. For Chenny, this place is not unfamiliar. After all, he has been working here for many years, and he soon recognized where this place is. But why is it here? Shouldn't it be in his own room? Chenny pondered carefully in his heart. According to the conclusion drawn before, things that happen in real life will affect the progress of the simulation. In the previous simulations, without exception, he was in his own room. This time, something changed. It should be affected by things that happened in real life. That should be because of the killing of the Yunying village envoy. Has it finally come to this? Chenny squinted his eyes. In the original development of the matter, the Yunying village envoy attempted to kidnap Hyuga Hinata, but was caught and killed by Hyuga Hiyashi. The Yunying village took the opportunity to threaten to start a war and asked for Hyuga Hiyashi's body. In the end, although Hyuga Hiyashi did not die, in order to avoid war, he still paid the life of his younger brother Hyuga Hiyashi. In this life, the person who saved Hinata became him. So the same fate fell on him on his body. After a while, Chenny figured out the key point. It seems that Konoha and the Uchiha clan are still planning to hand him over. For the so-called peace, what a noble reason. So sacrificing one's life is justified and normal. Chenny couldn't help but snorted coldly. Originally, although he didn't have too deep feelings for Konoha and the Uchiha clan, his impression was not too bad. But now, there is only endless disgust and ridicule in his heart. Especially for the high-level officials of Konoha and the Uchiha clan. He hated the weakness, decay and darkness of the world. Chenny stood up and walked towards the closed iron door. With Chenny's current strength, such a mere iron door could not stop him at all. He was willing to be trapped here before, probably just to be able to conduct the fifth simulation safely. He walked to the iron door and activated his chakra, intending to break through the door. But at this moment, there was a sound from the door. Clatter. There was a heavy and crisp sound of iron chains colliding. Chenny clearly felt that someone was coming, more than one. They were approaching him. Chenny stopped what he was doing and looked outside the door indifferently. Sure enough, after a while, the iron door was opened. Outside the iron door, there were more than a dozen ninjas from the Root organization. The leader had circles of white bandages wrapped around his head, and even his left eye was covered. The only remaining eye was full of ferocity and resentment. It was Danzo, seeing Chenny standing calmly in the cell, calmly, without any panic. A hint of surprise flashed across Danzo's face. But soon he returned to his usual gloomy expression. He raised his arm slightly and waved it gently. The dozen or so ninjas from the Root organization behind him, except for the two on Danzo's left and right, all rushed forward and rushed towards Chenny. As soon as they met, they killed him without saying a word. Swish, swish, swish. There were bursts of sounds of breaking through the air. Shuriken after shurikens were densely packed and stabbed at Chenny. They wove a huge killing net in the air. In such a narrow cell, it was almost impossible to hide. Fire style. Great fireball technique. A huge flame gushed out of Chenny's mouth, quickly gathering into a fireball with scorching flames, rolling forward. The hot air wave spread out. Those shurikens that had not yet touched the fireball quickly melted or were blown away. The fireball continued to roll forward with extremely terrifying power. The expressions of more than a dozen ninjas from the Root organization changed. They had never expected such a situation to happen, and hurriedly performed ninjutsu to resist. Water style, water wall. Earth escape, earth flow wall. A series of defensive ninjutsu rose up instantly, blocking the front. The rolling fireball exploded quickly after colliding with these defensive ninjutsu, erupting with even more powerful and amazing energy. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Several water-style ninjutsu were quickly evaporated and disappeared. Under the powerful exploding fireball, these few water-style ninjutsu seemed so insignificant. The wall created by the earth escape technique was also blown up instantly. And all this only slightly reduced the power of Chenny's fireball. The powerful air wave generated by the explosion covered the front. More than a dozen ninjas from the Root organization wanted to escape, but it was too late. They were knocked away, injured, and fell to the ground. However, when the powerful hot air wave spread to Danzo, it suddenly disappeared. It couldn't hurt him at all. There was also a hint of surprise on Danzo's face. Uchiha Chenny. The previous intelligence only said that you have extraordinary physical skills, but I didn't expect that even your ninjutsu has reached this level. Interesting. Chenny looked calm, smiling at the leader of the root organization. He had no good feelings towards Danzo. It can be said that many unfortunate things happened because of Danzo. For example, the night of the Uchiha clan extermination. The two ninjas standing next to Danzo were about to step forward to fight Chenny, but Chenny was stopped by Danzo. "You don't have to do anything, just let me try." Danzo walked forward and slowly revealed the bandage wrapped around his shoulder. He revealed an arm that looked a little weird. It was a little creepy white. It was somewhat similar to the body of White Zetsu. Hashirama cells. Qianyu recognized the strange arm at a glance. However, Danzo didn't have so many Sharingan on his body now. Those Sharingan were transplanted to Danzo after the night of the Uchiha clan extermination. If he only had Hashirama cells, it would not be enough. Hashirama cells can only exert part of the ability of wood release. And Qianyi has the complete version of wood release Kekkei limit. How to compare? Danzo stared at Qianyi closely. He wanted to see some traces of surprise on Qianyi's face. After all, this was the result of his experiments over the years. No one who saw it for the first time was not surprised. But Qianyi was always calm and unperturbed. It surprised him a little. But he didn't think much about it, just thinking that he was a young man with no experience and didn't know how great his thing was. However, he believed that Qianyi would know soon. Wood style, explosive gun technique. As soon as he made a move, he used wood style. The unique bloodline of the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju. As the ninjutsu was performed, Danzo's right arm, which had been transplanted with Hashirama's cells, changed dramatically in an instant. A giant tree grew rapidly at an exaggerated speed visible to the naked eye, and soon occupied half of the cell, and continued to expand and expand. The countless branches on the tree were like indestructible weapons, destroying everything that touched it. Bang! These extremely solid cells made of fine iron slowly deformed and collapsed under the expansion of the tree. The scene became a mess. Chenny used the instant body technique to easily avoid all attacks like a leisurely stroll in the garden. Slow. Too slow. Not fierce enough. Is this worthy of being called wood style? Chenny was a little disdainful. Since you are so confident in your wood style, let Danzo see what real wood style is. Wood release. Sea of trees birth. As the ninjutsu was performed, the ground began to tremble, and trees rose from the ground and grew at an astonishing speed. At first they were just seedlings, and gradually turned into small trees, and then continued to grow into towering trees with luxuriant branches and leaves. The giant tree that was originally indestructible and continuously expanding in the prison was broken and destroyed. Gradually it was assimilated into an ordinary tree in the sea of trees birth. The surrounding environment changed significantly. In an instant, the entire Uchiha clan's settlement turned into a forest. Danzo's expression changed drastically. This is wood release, it's actually wood release. How can he use wood release? However, he didn't have time to think about it. Branches and vines came one after another. Unlike the fierce and irresistible wood release of Danzo before, Chenny's wood release was obviously softer. But softness does not mean that it is not lethal and destructive. On the contrary, its destructive power is even stronger. This is due to Chenny's precise control of chakra. All chakra is used where it is needed, instead of doing meaningless destruction. Just this step alone has surpassed Danzo by a lot. Retreat, Danzo said in a deep voice. He gave the order to retreat without any hesitation. The power displayed by Chenny was beyond his imagination. As the leader of the root organization, he certainly had some tricks that he hadn't used yet. But those were his trump cards, so he couldn't use them casually. In the dark, there was an unfathomable masked man, so he had to be on guard. After Chenny performed wood release, sea of trees, the entire Uchiha clan settlement turned into an extremely dense forest. It looked lush and full of life. But only the enemies who were really in it would know the horror here. Here, every tree and every branch and leaf are Chenny's eyes and hands and feet. Everything here, no matter how small, is clearly perceived by Chenny. All the trees are also under Chenny's control. Here, Chenny is the only ruler. If you want to break the situation, you can only rely on powerful force to destroy everything here. Or have a defense that ignores all attacks, there is no other way. At this time, Danzo was dodging quickly in it. although he is over 60 years old and no longer young. But his speed and his reaction are not slow at all. He is more comfortable than the two confidants who are traveling with him. However, under Chenny's offensive, he is still somewhat stretched. Vines and branches are like snakes, winding and climbing, extremely fast. If it was just one, let alone a cage-level powerhouse like Danzo, even an ordinary Jonin could get rid of it easily. However, this was not just one or one. There were hundreds, even thousands, densely packed and covering the sky. As far as the eye could see, there were almost no end. Danzo and his two trusted ninjas dodged while using ninjutsu to destroy, hoping to fight their way out. However, all this was too difficult. Danzo was a cage-level powerhouse. Even if he didn't want to expose his trump card, he only used some ordinary ninjutsu, and the power should not be underestimated. Every time a ninjutsu was performed, it could directly sweep away a large area of space. However, there were too many branches and vines. Just as a space was swept out, the ones behind would catch up immediately, like a tide, and there was no end at all. Even Danzo was like this, let alone the two trusted ninjas around him. The situation they faced was even more dangerous. One of them had even suffered some minor injuries. If it wasn't for another ninja trying his best to rescue him, he would have been entangled and unable to move. Danzo frowned, his expression uncertain. He thought that no matter how powerful Chenny was, he brought so many elite ninjas from the Root organization, and he was in charge of them. Wouldn't it be more than enough to deal with them? However, he miscalculated. The information he got before was not accurate at all. What do you mean he is just a ninja with outstanding individual skills? This one has clearly reached the level of Cage. He also mastered the legendary wood release. If he had known it would be so troublesome, he would not have wanted to come. However, the most important thing now is how to break the impasse and escape from danger. Of course, he has some means that may be able to break the impasse, but he does not intend to use them. He has other ways. Itachi, I know you're there. Come out, kill him, kill Uchiha Chie. Danzo half closed his eyes, dodging branches and vines while speaking in a deep voice. However, except for the sound of branches and vines moving quickly, there was silence around. It seemed that there was no one at all. Danzo snorted coldly, with a hint of chill and threat. Itachi, don't forget our agreement. Killing the Uchiha clan is the fulfillment of the agreement, isn't it? In the darkness, there was still no other sound. Until a moment later, Chenny's eyes suddenly flashed. He felt that an extremely powerful person was approaching. In a corner of the darkness, two blood-red eyes suddenly lit up. Inside, three Magatama were connected to each other, forming a blade shape. Mangekyo Sharingan. Fire Style. Great Fireball Technique. Fire Style. Phoenix Claw Red. Fire Style. Great Fire Dragon Technique. Fire Escape Ninjutsu was released one after another. The speed of the seal was amazing. It felt like the next ninjutsu had just been used. In this way, more than 10 ninjutsu were released at the same time. Instantly, an extremely terrifying power was displayed. The boiling flames roared and screamed wildly, wantonly devouring, destroying, and assimilating everything that wanted to approach them. After a while, the originally lush forest turned into a sea of fire burning. The flames filled the sky, illuminating everything around it red. Tuanjin had some fine beads of sweat on his forehead, staring at Chenny with a bad look. Everything he had just experienced was a big loss for him. Especially the physical consumption was even more so. After all, he was old and his physical strength was not as good as before. Behind him, a pair of blood-red eyes flashing red slowly approached and finally stood beside him. It was Uchiha, Itachi. Itachi, you did a great job. The words were said to Itachi, but he did not turn around, but still looked at Chenny. Kill him, kill Uchiha Chie. Konoha will never regret the promise it made to you. Itachi nodded slightly and walked in front of Chenny. Facing this opponent who had fought countless times before, Chenny's face showed a hint of amusement. Starting from the second simulation, he was defeated in the first moment, then barely resisted, and then had a slight advantage. Finally, now that he has gained a golden ability, 80 God's Airstrike, what will happen to him when facing this old opponent? Itachi stood in front of Chenny. The two looked at each other, seemingly motionless. But the people around knew very well that the confrontation between the two had begun. The confrontation between the Uchiha clan must be a confrontation between eye techniques. Uchiha Itachi is particularly good at illusions and has extremely high attainments. Let him take action, of course he will use magic to solve the opponent. Will Itachi win? A trusted ninja next to Danzo asked. Of course, in the art of illusion, absolutely no one can be a match for Uchiha Itachi. Danzo's words were stiff and calm, but they were full of absolute confidence in Uchiha Itachi. After all, this was the most rare genius ninja in the Uchiha clan, and even in the entire Konoha in decades. In the field he was best at, he didn't believe Itachi would lose. Beside him, two trusted ninjas nodded after hearing Danzo's words. Yes, that's Uchiha Itachi. Although Cheni is strong, it depends on what they are competing in. It may be hard to say if it's a physical skill, but this is a battle of illusion. Itachi has absolutely no chance of losing. They watched closely from the side. And didn't help. In a battle between ninjas of this level, ordinary ninjas would just be giving away their heads. They would not be able to play any role at all. They would only be a drag. All they have to do is watch from the side, that's all. The winner has been decided. After a while, Danzo suddenly said in a deep voice. As Danzo's words fell, Uchiha Itachi groaned. 2 obvious tears of blood flowed down his face from his blood-red eyes. His whole aura became extremely dejected. He quickly performed the instant body technique and retreated to a distance. Cheni did not stop him. The winner has been decided. Uchiha Itachi lost. Danzo frowned, and his subconscious reaction was that Itachi let him win. But he quickly denied this guess. According to his understanding of Itachi and the deal they had reached before, Itachi would not let him win. So, Danzo's face showed a solemn look. Although Uchiha Itachi was young, his strength had reached a point that he could hardly see through. Even compared to him, he was not much worse. But now he lost. And he lost in the illusion that he was best at. How could a strong man who opened the Mangekyo Sharingan lose in an illusion contest? This is simply impossible, unless the other ninja also has the Mangekyo Sharingan. Danzo quickly realized this fact that seemed a bit unbelievable but very likely to exist. He stared closely at Cheni not far away, his eyes as sharp as a hawk. Cheni also slowly showed his eyes. Within the red light, 3 Magatama were connected to each other like blades. Mangekyo Sharingan. Danzo's eyes condensed instantly, and his face was deeply shocked. Sure enough, only the Mangekyo Sharingan can fight against the Mangekyo Sharingan. Although he had already had some guesses in his heart, now seeing it, the indescribable shock in his heart was inevitably revealed. The unique bloodline limit would escape of the first-generation Hokage of Konoha, Senju Hashirama. In addition, the Uchiha clan's Mangekyo Sharingan actually appeared on one person at the same time. Uchiha Cheni. Such a person must not stay in this world. Go, kill him. Danzo half closed his eyes, and the single eye that was exposed showed a strong murderous intent. Beside him, the 2 trusted ninjas paused. Kill. Seriously, he possessed both the Mangekyo Sharingan and would release. Even Uchiha Itachi was no match for such a person. Let them kill him. Isn't this a joke? Danzo glanced at them coldly. The 2 trusted ninjas took a step back almost at the same time. Their fear of Danzo forced them to bite the bullet and attack. These 2 trusted ninjas were both elite Jonins. They were not very strong in terms of combat power. However, they both had some extraordinary talents that ordinary ninjas did not have, and they were extremely strong auxiliary talents. This was also the reason why they could follow Danzo. Secret technique, poisonous insect technique. The ninja on the far left took the lead. He rushed forward in an instant, followed by a secret technique. As the secret technique was performed, countless insects emerged from his body and spread towards Cheni. He used chakra to feed the insects, parasitized them in his body, and drove them. Needless to say, the identity of this ninja has been fully revealed. Konoha Aburame clan. Following closely, another outer ninja also performed his own ninjutsu. The heart turn technique. This technique is performed silently. From the surface, nothing can be seen. Only those who are well versed in this know the danger. In the process of fighting with others, most ninjutsu are attacks on the human body from the outside to the inside. But the heart turn technique is different. It directly attacks the human soul. It makes the enemy's soul fall into a deep sleep and let it be manipulated. Of course, the requirements for successfully performing this ninjutsu are extremely high. It requires the control and cooperation of teammates. There is almost no chance of success in a single case. This is how Konoha's famous legendary combination, deer, butterfly and pig came about. But now, there is only one person on the scene. Do you want to control Chenny? It's impossible. Chenny looked calm. Facing the insects that almost covered the sky and spread over, he directly performed the ninjutsu. Fire style. Great fireball technique. A huge flame gushed out, gradually forming a huge fireball, rolling away with a scorching flame. The insects that gathered together like a giant curtain, covering the sky and the sun, met this huge fireball, as if they had met their nemesis. Even before they got close enough, they were burned to death by the scorching air waves. A lot of insects were killed or injured in just one encounter. The ninja of the Aburame clan looked heartbroken and quickly used chakra to control the insects to disperse and reduce casualties. But the previous offensive was completely interrupted. As for the other ninja of the Yamanaka clan, he was still insisting on his heart-turning technique. But the effect, it was almost useless. Yes, if they were not wearing masks, Danzo would have seen the sad faces of these two ninjas. It was difficult, too difficult. They were obviously two auxiliary ninjas, but they were used as the main attackers. They don't have the ability. They don't have the ability at all. Isn't this sending them to their deaths? At this time, the ninjas of the Root organization who were originally scattered around saw the great changes that took place here and rushed over. Looking at the situation on the scene, they widened their eyes and could not hide their inner horror. It was Wood Release and the Mangekyo Sharingan. Even Uchiha Itachi, the genius ninja who was famous in Uchiha and even the entire Konoha, was defeated. What kind of monster is this? Let's go together and kill him. Danzo's face was gloomy. He gave an order and dozens of ninjas from the Root organization attacked at the same time, rushing towards Chenny and surrounding him. More than people. Come on. Qian Yi chuckled and performed ninjutsu. Wood Release, multiple wood clone technique. After facing the human sea battlefields of the Root organization several times, Chenny also thought of his own way to deal with it. That is the multiple wood clone technique. Since there is no helper, then create a helper. However, the amount of chakra required to perform this ninjutsu is extremely high. Not to mention ordinary ninjas, even those truly powerful beings may not be able to use this ninjutsu. Chenny has the physique of an Otsutsuki, the Mangekyo Sharingan, and Wood Release. Only then can it be practiced and used in battle. As the ninjutsu was performed, suddenly, 10 figures exactly like him appeared beside Chenny. And the number is still increasing. 10, 15, 24, 50. The number of clones is increasing, and soon it is impossible to count how many there are. Next to him, Danzo, the ninjas of the Root organization were all shocked. One Uchiha Chenny is already extremely strong. Now there are so many Uchiha Chenny, how can they fight? Although everyone knows that the strength of the shadow clones cannot be compared with the original body. But seeing so many Uchiha Chenny at the same time still makes them feel an extremely strong sense of oppression. Danzo's eyes narrowed slightly. Now the situation is getting worse and worse. Originally, he wanted to use the absolute advantage in numbers to cooperate with the ninjas of the Aburame clan and the Yamanaka clan to quickly complete the suppression. Unexpectedly, he actually used the multiple shadow clone technique directly. Accidents are really increasing. In just a short moment, dozens of identical Uchiha Uchiha appeared in the center of the battlefield. At first glance, there were no fewer than the ninjas of the Root organization. Everyone around was stunned. Such a terrifying amount of chakra, I'm afraid it's close to those legendary tailed beasts. Chia looked grimly, looking at the surrounding Root ninjas. Dozens of identical Uchiha Uchiha performed ninjutsu at the same time. Fire style, Phoenix fire technique. A huge flame gushed out and then scattered. It was like a cannonball burning with hot flames, bursting in all directions. From a distance, it was like a meteor passing through the night, which was very beautiful. But under this gorgeous appearance, there was a strong murderous intent hidden. Each ball of fire carried extremely amazing and terrifying energy. And the speed was so fast that it was incredible. It was difficult to dodge. Those who could enter the root organization and become the people personally selected by Danzo were all true hand. Their strength is stronger than that of ordinary elite Jonin. Moreover, their psychological level and experience in facing life and death battles are even deeper. This is the strength of the root organization. But now, under the powerful offensive of Uchiha Cheni, they can't help but look solemn. Balls of flames with scorching air waves flew towards them. Logically speaking, the strength of the clone is completely different from that of the original body. Whether it is the amount of chakra or the power of the released ninjutsu, it is at least one level lower. But now, with dozens of clones released, the power of the ninjutsu released by each clone is still so amazing. See how did not see any signs of weakening, it was too terrifying. Although there was still some distance, the ninjas of the root organization had already felt the unbearable heat wave. Water escape, water array wall. A group of ninjas who used water escape quickly released ninjutsu to resist the imminent powerful threat. They saw streams of rushing water rising from the ground, forming a natural wall. The water flowed rapidly, gushing upward, isolating everything. The original hot feeling disappeared in an instant. Instead, it was replaced by a cool feeling. But at this time, no one took it lightly. Because they knew that the real crisis had not yet arrived. The challenge was still to come. Hiss. After a while, bursts of such sounds rang out in the dark night, accompanied by streams of steaming white water vapor. It was caused by the collision between the flames and the water array wall. Balls of flames slammed into the water wall fiercely, and then went out. At the beginning, the ninjas of the root organization there wasn't much reaction yet. But soon they felt something was wrong. The number of fireballs was terrifying, almost unbelievable. Endless, as if there was no end. Moreover, the power brought by the fireballs was really amazing. After countless collisions, even the temperature of the water wall increased, and it even boiled. Danzo, who was watching the battle, frowned more and more. Just one person, but he actually suppressed dozens of ninjas from the root organization. Even if he did it himself, he would feel exhausted. But Uchiha Cheni was so relaxed. The novel was taken from the Raleigh's website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. Things are not good. Tuanjin let out a long breath, but his sight temporarily left the battlefield, looking at a certain place in the darkness, and said lightly, "Aren't you going to take action?" Ha. After a while, a vortex slowly appeared in the dark void. Two figures appeared, the masked man and Orochimaru. As Konoha deserted, they can't even handle a little guy like this, Orochimaru said sarcastically. The masked man next to him stood by with his arms crossed, watching, and didn't seem to have any intention of taking action. HMPH. Danzo snorted coldly, without saying anything more, but he distanced himself from the masked man and Orochimaru without leaving any trace. These two people were not worthy of his trust. The battle on the battlefield was still going on, but the victory or defeat was already at a thin line. Uchiha Cheni used his extraordinary ability to suppress dozens of ninjas of the root organization by himself. Danzo's face gradually became uglier. This time, the Uchiha clan was exterminated on the night. The root organization is full of elite troops, but they can't do anything to Uchiha Chiya. Doesn't this make people look down on them? Especially in front of the masked man and Orochimaru. These two people don't have any good intentions towards Konoha. And there is also Uchiha Chiya who is in a big battle. Konoha massacred the Uchiha clan and tried to kill him. The hatred between them has reached an almost irreversible situation. They are destined enemies. If we don't take advantage of the right time, place and people to deal with it today, I don't know how big a trouble it will be in the future. This is a super strong man who possesses both wood release and Mangekyo Sharingan. But, can you stop him if you want to? Danzo is very clear about the answer. That is, it is impossible. Even if he takes action, he doesn't have the confidence. Just when he was struggling and hesitating, Orochimaru suddenly said, "Danzo, I can help you, but I have a condition." Conditions. Danzo's eyes flashed. Orochimaru licked his lips, his eyes full of greed. "I want his body." Danzo's eyes narrowed, hesitating for a moment, then nodded. Okay. The deal between the two was concluded. The masked man on the side watched everything indifferently. Even when Orochimaru, who was nominally his subordinate, traded with Danzo, he did not say much. This was his organization, Akatsuki. In addition to completing the tasks he assigned on time, most of the time they were very free and did not have to accept his control completely. Orochimaru smiled evilly on his white and creepy face and took a few steps forward. In the center of the battlefield, in just a few minutes, Chenny suppressed dozens of ninjas of the Root organization by himself. He showed shocking strength. Just as he was about to attack, when he was about to get rid of everyone, he suddenly felt two strong auras rushing towards him. Almost at the same time, the ninjas of the Root organization also received orders to retreat. Since Orochimaru has agreed to take action, there is no need for Danzo to waste his strength. Chenny looked sideways. He saw two figures standing not far from him. They were the first-generation Hokage Hashirama Senju and the second-generation Hokage Tobirama Senju, who were resurrected by the impure world reincarnation. Uchiha Chenny looked at the two people in front of him who were famous in the entire ninja world. The blood-red Mangekyo Sharingan inadvertently became more creepy and brighter. His whole body became very agitated and boiling. In the previous fights, he was defeated by the two of them several times in a row. This time, with the 80 gods of air attack, I don't know what the result will be. Chenny dispersed all the shadow clones. It is completely useless if it is not multiple shadow clones. The shadow clone is very useful. It can be used to confuse the opponent, set tactics, and achieve unexpected results. But now Chenny obviously doesn't want these. What he wants is a real confrontation, a confrontation of strength. Especially in simulations, such a duel can better reflect the gap between strengths. In front of Chenny, the first and second generation Hokage attacked without warning after approaching. Several branches suddenly appeared, extending upward at a very fast speed, circling upward, trying to tie Chenny up. Before that, there was not even any hand seal. The ninjutsu was performed in an instant. There was no time or opportunity to react. Even Chenny was slightly surprised when he first saw it. He knew clearly that the current impure world reincarnation was incomplete and imperfect. Therefore, the strength of the first and second generation Hokage was far from reaching the peak level. But even so, the strength shown by these two was enough to surprise. Being able to cast spells without making hand seals was just an extremely common one. The extremely rich combat experience and the endless wonderful ninjutsu. It was amazing. Chenny hurriedly used the instant body technique to dodge, but it was too late. The branches climbed upwards and tied Chenny up tightly. However, just as they were tightened, the original Chenny suddenly became empty and turned into a piece of wood. Wood escape, substitute technique. At the most critical moment, Chenny still used this ninjutsu. Avoided this surprise attack. However, before he could feel at ease, the crisis came again. This time it was the second generation Hokage. The second generation Hokage Senju Tobirama, the founder of many powerful forbidden techniques. His strength may not be as good as that of Hashirama Senju, who is known as the god of ninja, but it should not be underestimated. Especially when many magical ninjutsu are performed, it is completely impossible to defend against. Just when the first generation attacked Chenny, he had already attacked. He came behind Chenny silently. His speed and tricky movements were simply amazing. Chenny used the substitute technique to avoid the attack of the first generation. The second generation had already appeared behind him, holding a kunai in his hand and stabbed down fiercely. Chenny hurried to resist. However, before he could make a defensive move, the second generation of Hokage behind him disappeared in an instant. An extremely strong sense of crisis came over him. Relying on the terrifying insight of the Mangekyo Sharingan, Chenny once again noticed the traces of the second generation. However, before he could look over, the second generation had disappeared again. Flying Thunder God. Chenny instantly realized what kind of ninjutsu this was. It was the famous space-type ninjutsu, Flying Thunder God. Before the second generation Hokage made his move, he had already thrown out several kunai marked with the Flying Thunder God technique. It seemed that he was shooting kunai randomly, but in fact, it was a well-marked point. It allowed him to perform Flying Thunder God. This is how he could teleport so quickly in a very short time. That is, Cheni has the Mangekyo Sharingan, and his ability to perceive and see has reached a level that ordinary ninjas can't even imagine. This is how he can find the second generation every time. This requirement alone is already extremely high. But it is not enough. Seeing is only the most basic requirement. To see, you also need a very strong reaction speed. Be able to dodge attacks. It is extremely difficult to do this. Even those ninjas who are good at physical skills may not be able to do it. But Cheni is different. He has the Mangekyo Sharingan, and the super physical skills under the blessing of the Otsutsuki physique. As early as when he just obtained this golden ability, he was able to defeat Kuroki Raiga, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen, with his super physical skills. Afterwards, he also relied on physical skills to injure the careless masked man. Cheni is now even stronger than before. Just relying on physical skills is enough to face most of the cage-level strongmen in this world. So when facing the Flying Thunder God of the second Hokage Senju Tobirama, he was not at a disadvantage and was able to resist it completely. However, the situation soon changed again. Because the first Hokage Senju Tobirama took action. The trees on the ground rose from the ground, winding and entwining towards Cheni. On the one hand, Cheni had to face the Flying Thunder God of the second Hokage, and on the other hand, he had to be careful of the ninjutsu released by the first Hokage from a distance. He immediately felt great pressure. After all, the strength of these two, even the weaker second Hokage, is far beyond the reach of ordinary cage-level strongmen. Coupled with the first Hokage, Cheni can barely fight back without losing. If a cage-level strongman of the same level comes, I am afraid he will not be able to hold on for even a minute. However, as time went on, Cheni still felt that 2 fists could not beat 4 hands, and he was a little overwhelmed. In order to change the situation, he can only change his tactics. 80 God's Air Attack. Cheni distanced himself in an instant, and then released this golden ability that he had just obtained but had not had time to use. As the ninjutsu was performed, he condensed a large amount of chakra in his body into his palm, and in an instant, his palm burst into an extremely dazzling white light. A strong and heavy aura also slowly leaked out. At this time, there was no need to say more. Everyone present knew that Cheni was releasing a very powerful ninjutsu. Even ninja shops like the first and second generation Hokage felt the pressure. And they prepared countermeasures in an instant, that is, it is best not to let Cheni release the ninjutsu. The 2 of them, one far and one close, performed ninjutsu to interrupt Cheni's accumulating power. Cheni looked calm, still maintaining his previous movements, and the impending power Waki completely ignored it. He was confident that he could complete the ninjutsu before the opponent's attack arrived. 80 God's Air Strike. The bloodline network that belongs exclusively to Kagaya Otsutsuki. Excellent in both offense and defense, it is known as the strongest physical technique among the Naruto. It has extremely terrifying energy. If Kagaya Otsutsuki performs this ninjutsu, she doesn't need any time to condense chakra. She can do it at will, without any deliberate preparation. However, it is not so easy for Cheni to perform such a powerful ninjutsu with his current strength. First of all, the control of chakra is far from being able to be done at will. Therefore, he needs time to condense and prepare for the performance of ninjutsu. Chapter 51. It takes time to condense and cannot be used instantly. This also creates many loopholes. It gives the enemy some opportunities to take advantage of. But there is no way around it. Fortunately, Cheni's chakra has been condensed now. Almost at the same time, the first generations would release ninjutsu and the second generation's Flying Thunder God Sorcerer also arrived in front of him, and they were about to completely end the battle. At this moment, fists formed by powerful chakra gathered from Cheni's palms, with the power and oppression of destroying everything, were thrown out. No one could imagine what kind of terrifying ninjutsu this was. All we could see was that after Cheni's ninjutsu was used, in just a few seconds, the first generation of Hokages would release ninjutsu was completely destroyed. The second generation of Hokage was even unable to dodge and half of his body was smashed. But because he was reborn from the impure world reincarnation, he was immortal and soon recovered. However, even so, it was enough to make people shudder. In an instant, he repelled the attacks of the first and second generation Hokage at the same time. He even severely injured one. That was Hashirama Senju, known as the God of Ninja, and the second-generation Hokage, whose strength was unfathomable. Both of them were beaten back together. Although everyone knew that the first and second generations were not in their peak state at this time, such a situation was shocking enough. The momentum of all the root organization ninjas dropped a lot. If they were ashamed and angry and fearful when they rushed forward just now, they were defeated. Now there was only despair in their hearts, and even great doubts. Can such a person really be defeated? Even Danzo and Orochimaru's faces were gloomy. As cage-level strongmen, more often than not, they would first consider what would happen to them when facing this situation and whether they could do better. The answer is obvious. Not only will it not be better, it may even be worse. Because this time the person who was hit was a dead person who was reborn from the impure world reincarnation. If a living person was hit by such a punch, wouldn't he die directly? Even the second-generation Hokage with the Flying Thunder God technique couldn't dodge it, let alone them. Could they be faster than the second-generation Hokage? The masked man still looked the same as before. Indifferent, as if everything was under his control. I just don't know if the face under the mask can still be so calm after seeing this scene. The battle on the battlefield is still going on. Facing the wood release of the first Hokage and the Flying Thunder God of the second Hokage. Chenny can only use 80 God's air attack to resist. And it can achieve excellent results. The body of the second Hokage was smashed several times. Even the first Hokage suffered a lot. If it weren't for the fact that the body from the impure world reincarnation can be resurrected infinitely, this battle would have ended long ago. But now, the first and second generations can heal and resurrect again and again. Chenny's chakra is constantly being consumed. There is no doubt about the power of the 80 God's air attack. But at the same time, it also has extremely high requirements for chakra. That is, Chenny can release it so many times because of the double bonus of the Otsutsuki physique and the Mangekyo Sharingan. But now, after several fierce battles, it is not enough. This simulation failed. A line of transparent text appeared in the air, announcing the result of this simulation. Even with the golden ability of 80 God's airstrike, after the strength increased greatly, he still failed to successfully survive the night of genocide. But the process in between is fundamentally different from the previous one. In the third simulation, Chenny was directly at a disadvantage in the matchup. But this time it was not the case. After using the 80 God's airstrike, he could easily gain an advantage in the fight with the first and second generations. In the end, he lost because the first and second generations of the impure world reincarnation could be resurrected infinitely, and the amount of chakra would not decrease. It was equivalent to infinite blood and infinite blue. But Chenny was different. His consumption was real. This is why he was defeated in the end. However, compared with the previous one, it was already a great improvement. Chenny's goal has changed from how to defeat the first and second generations to how to completely solve the problem of people who can be resurrected from the dead. According to the information Chenny has, the impure world reincarnation ninjutsu has a very terrible ability. It can recall the souls of dead ninjas and revive them in the form of entities. The resurrected ninja will completely obey the orders of the caster, and will be immortal and have unlimited chakra. In the Fourth Ninja World War, Kabuto Yakushi used this ninjutsu to resurrect many powerful ninjas who had died, and caused great trouble to the coalition forces. However, this ninjutsu is not perfect and has no flaws. Impure world reincarnation also has its own flaws. The first is the sealing technique. The resurrected ninja is immortal and has no endless chakra, but it is powerless when facing the sealing technique. Once sealed, it is impossible to even break free. The second is the recovery speed. It is true that the reincarnated ninja is immortal, but after being attacked strongly enough, it is impossible to recover in a very short time. This also creates an opportunity for the seal. The third is the risk of breaking free and getting rid of control. If the resurrected ninja knows the seal of the resurrection, he can unlock the seal by himself, such as Uchiha Madara in the Fourth Ninja World War. There are also those truly powerful ninjas who can even ignore the control of the caster. For example, Hashirama Senju was resurrected from the impure world reincarnation during the Fourth Ninja World War and possessed most of the power of his previous life. Chenny squinted his eyes, and this information flashed through his mind at a very fast speed, thinking of countermeasures. On the other hand, the system had already begun to prepare for the next simulation. After all, time is limited and cannot be wasted. During the simulation, every minute and every second is precious and cannot be missed. Soon, Chenny figured it all out. Among the 3 defects of the impure world reincarnation, only the sealing technique is usable. As for the other 2, they are a bit unrealistic. With Chenny's current strength, he can easily deal with most of the cage-level strongmen in this world. But if you want to play the power to delay the recovery speed of the impure world reincarnation, you need at least the combat power of the super cage level. This is what Chenny does not have now. And it is obviously unlikely to break free from the control of the impure world reincarnation. Because the impure world reincarnation is not perfect. The reincarnated first and second generation Hokage only have the strength of the cage level. It is obviously impossible to forcibly get rid of the control with the cage level strength. Otherwise, with the attitude of the first generation towards the Uchiha clan, he would not let Orochimaru manipulate him. After all, there is only the sealing technique, which is the most feasible way. System, start simulation. Uchiha Chenny, who had figured out everything, said in a deep voice. He selected his talent again and entered the simulation. This time, he sought to use the sealing method to break the situation. However, although Chenny had mastered some sealing methods, it was still somewhat difficult to seal the top combat power of the first and second generations. In addition, he was surrounded by enemies. The root organization, Danzo, Orochimaru, and Uchiha Itachi were watching and obstructing all the time, and everything was not going smoothly. But compared to the previous simulations, it was obviously a lot of progress. The failure to seal successfully and the failure of simulations again and again did not affect Chenny's mood. He enjoyed the feeling of improving himself in battle, and he enjoyed the confrontation with the real strong. By now, with his strength, he could easily avoid the Uchiha clan extermination night and survive. But that was no longer his goal. How to improve his strength as much as possible in battle to deal with the possible future, all the situations that will appear are what he really wants. As time passed, Chenny had simulated 6 or 7 times. In the subsequent simulations, he calmed his mind. He no longer tried to use the sealing method, but adopted a more direct way to hone himself. One reason was that the level of the sealing method he mastered was too low, and it was not enough to seal the first and second generations. In addition, the surrounding of enemies also made his seal somewhat impractical. Time and time again, because of exhausting chakra, he was defeated in the end. Chenny knew that it would be difficult to do better with his current strength. If he wanted to change the situation, there was only one word: wait. Wait for the new golden ability. According to the golden ability he had obtained before, Otsutsuki Physique, Would Escape, 80 God's Air Attack, all of these can greatly enhance his strength, thus solving one difficulty after another. And now, in the face of this new dilemma, he believes that as long as the golden ability appears, he will be able to reverse everything. However, the golden ability is not so easy to get. After several simulations, Chenny encountered many purple abilities, and even more white and blue abilities. However, he still couldn't find the golden ability. This was consistent with his experience. No matter what good things were, they were not so easy to get. Chenny had already had psychological expectations in his heart, and he was not too upset. Finally, after more than 10 simulations, Chenny got his 4th golden ability. Lord of Elements golden ability. When performing escape techniques, the power of ninjutsu is increased by 300%. 300%. Oh my goodness, this is too exaggerated. Even Chenny was a little surprised when he saw the introduction of this golden ability. The power of ninjutsu is increased by 300%, what does this mean? His ordinary, lowest level C-level ninjutsu will have unimaginable power under the blessing of the golden ability Lord of Elements. It requires the ultimate move of the same level strong to fight. Originally thought that the 4th golden ability would be a bloodline limit like the previous ones, or bloodline elimination, bloodline net, etc. Unexpectedly, it was the Lord of Elements. Simple, rough, and most importantly, strong enough. Getting this ability directly means being invincible at the same level, and even when fighting across levels, you have the power to fight. Chenny first locked this golden ability, and then randomly selected a few abilities from it and entered the simulation. He couldn't wait to try the power of the Lord of Elements. Enter the simulation. Just like before, Cheni was locked up in the prison of Konoha Guard. Later, Danzo brought people to silence him, but they were scared away. Then came Orochimaru's impure world reincarnation technique, and the appearance of the first and second Hokage. Under the dark night sky, the first and second Hokage walked side by side, with a strong sense of oppression. Cheni appeared in front of the first and second Hokage with a flash technique, only 2 or 3 meters away. Before, he was able to deal with Danzo, the ninjas of the Root organization, and even Uchiha Itachi easily, without using his newly acquired golden ability, the Lord of Elements. Until now, when facing the first and second Hokage with the impure world reincarnation body, he really planned to do his best. 80 God's Air Attack. At the beginning, Cheni used the most powerful move he had mastered at this stage. Assisted by the newly acquired golden ability, the Lord of Elements. Instantly, an extraordinary power burst out. As the chakra condensed, white light shone on the palm of Cheni's hand. Before he made a move, he had already revealed a heart-pounding pressure. Under this pressure, the people watching the battle nearby, even the first and second generation Hokage with the body of the impure world reincarnation, all sensed a strong breath of danger. This breath even made them feel that once they were hit, they would pay an irreversible price. Even if they had the body of the impure world reincarnation that could recover infinitely, it was no exception. Without too much reminder, the first and second generation Hokage, who were extremely experienced in combat, had already moved. They knew that the more they faced this powerful ninjutsu, the more they could not, instead of just sitting there and waiting to die, you should choose to take the initiative to attack and interrupt the casting of ninjutsu, which may have unexpected results. However, Cheni at this moment is no longer the Cheni who used 80 God's aerial attack for the first time. In the previous dozen simulations, Cheni became more and more proficient in the use of 80 God's aerial attack, to the point where he could cast it without too much preparation. Otherwise, he would not have been able to come in front of the first and second generations with a single instant body technique. The first and second generations attacked at the same time. Would release one of the most terrifying bloodline limits in the world. Flying Thunder God, an S-level space-type ninjutsu. Either one is difficult enough. What's more, now that it is performed by truly powerful men like the first and second generations, it has reached a point that is unimaginable for ordinary people. At the same time, Cheni's 80 God's aerial attack, blessed by the Lord of Elements, 10 God's air strike can also be used. One after another, huge chakra fists, like a small mountain, are thrown indiscriminately in all directions. The range is so large that it is even nearly 100 meters. It completely covers Danzo, Orochimaru, the Masked Man, Itachi, and the ninjas of the Root organization who are watching the battle. The huge chakra fist carries an indescribable terrifying pressure and a thunderous speed. There is still a clear distance when it is first seen, but in the blink of an eye it is already in front of everyone. White light. Dazzling white light fists are densely thrown in all directions. Destroy everything he touches. Orochimaru, Danzo, Itachi, and the ninjas of the Root organization are all horrified and surprised. Even the Masked Man, who always shows dignity and calmness and claims to be Uchiha Madara, seems to have a slight fluctuation. They could never have imagined that Cheni could release this ninjutsu that surpassed the cage-level strongman. As the fist with chakra condensed approached, the people in horror hurriedly used the instant body technique to dodge. However, except for the Masked Man with divine power, the remaining few people, Danzo, Orochimaru, Uchiha Itachi who had been injured before, and a group of ninjas from the Root organization still failed to dodge. Especially the ninjas of the Root organization. Each of them is not bad, but it depends on who they are compared with. Under the blessing of the Lord of the Golden Ability Element, Cheni's current strength has surpassed the cage level and is extremely close to the level of Super Cage. None of his ninjutsu can be contended by these ninjas of the Root organization. What's more, Cheni is now performing the 80 God's air strike, which is known as the strongest physical technique. Even cage-level strongmen like Danzo and Orochimaru could not dodge and suffered some minor injuries, let alone these elite Jonins, who are even more difficult to dodge and suffer heavy damage. The Masked Man, Danzo and others were shocked by the terrifying Chia ninjutsu, but they were staring at the center of the battlefield. They were affected so much on the periphery. Not to mention the first and second generation Hokage who were in the center of the battlefield. Although they all knew how amazing the power of the impure world reincarnation was, it was an imperfect impure world reincarnation technique after all. Could it really withstand such a powerful attack? They were unsure. On the battlefield, the indiscriminate attack just now destroyed everything and also stirred up thick gray smoke, covering everything like a thick fog. The masked man and Uchiha Itachi immediately activated the Mangekyo Sharingan to gain insight and perception. Itachi, how is it? Danzo asked with a serious face and frowned. If even the first and second generation Hokage who were reborn by the impure world reincarnation were not Cheni's opponents, he really had no way out. Orochimaru also half closed his eyes, his expression uncertain. Originally, he had absolute confidence in his impure world reincarnation technique. But now, after truly seeing Cheni's strength, he wavered. At this time, he realized how naive and ridiculous his previous idea of occupying Cheni's body was. The two Hokages are still alive, Uchiha Itachi said in a deep voice. Hearing this news, Orochimaru and Danzo both showed a hint of joy on their faces. If they are still alive, it means that the attack just now did not cause fundamental damage to the first and second generations. There is still a chance. At least, it is not so despairing. Whoosh! The night wind blew up, blowing away the gray smoke and revealing the situation inside clearly. Uchiha Cheni stood there calmly with a hint of excitement in his eyes. Obviously, he was very satisfied with the ability shown by the Lord of the Golden Ability Element. In the distance, the first and second generations of Hokage stood. Even after such a terrible attack, they still held on. But the specific situation is not good. The left arm of the second Hokage was broken, and his right leg disappeared. Even the first Hokage lost a leg. He was in a state of disarray. However, this was not the most frightening thing. What was really shocking was that the abilities brought by the impure world reincarnation, immortality, and unlimited chakra seemed to have been broken. The injuries of the first and second Hokage showed no signs of recovery. Or rather, their injuries were recovering, but the speed of recovery was very slow, so slow that it could be ignored. Danzo, Orochimaru, and Itachi widened their eyes, their lips trembled slightly, and they could not say a word. Cheni refreshed their cognition again and again. To what extent has this kid from the Uchiha family reached? The masked man was calm on the surface, but the single eye that was exposed became a little brighter. Obviously, even he who called himself Uchiha Madara could not remain calm when he saw this scene. Let's go together. Danzo's eyes flashed with a hint of coldness, and he looked at Uchiha Itachi and Orochimaru. Things had come to this point, and there was no way to end it without killing Cheni. God knew what would happen if he let Uchiha Cheni go today. However, even the first and second generations of the impure world reincarnation were injured like that, and he would definitely not be their opponent alone. So, he looked at Uchiha Itachi and Orochimaru. He needed help. If the first and second generations were not enough, then he would add himself, and if that was not enough, he would add Orochimaru and Itachi. He didn't believe that 5 cage level people would be enough. It's not enough. Hearing Danzo's words, Itachi immediately stood behind Danzo to show his support. He has always been loyal to Konoha. What's more, he has an agreement with Konoha, which he must fulfill. These 2 points, no matter which one, do not allow him to have any other choice. And this is not surprising to Danzo at all. He looked at Orochimaru again. If Orochimaru agreed, his hope would increase a little. And if he disagrees, he and Itachi can also give it a try. Orochimaru hesitated slightly, sneered, I want that kid's body. Okay. Danzo didn't hesitate at all. It was just a blank check, so he didn't have to write it randomly. As for what to do after he really got it, he would talk about it later. Anyway, reputation was never something Danzo valued. Okay. Orochimaru half closed his eyes, licked his dry lips with his big, long tongue, and finally agreed to take action. Are you willing to take action? Danzo looked at the masked man again. Unfortunately, the masked man just remained motionless after hearing what he said, as if he didn't hear it. Danzo didn't ask any more questions. Because he already knew the masked man's answer. It was not much different from what he had expected before. This mysterious person who claimed to be Uchiha Madara would not take action easily. Danzo, Orochimaru, and Uchiha Itachi, 3 cage-level strongmen, performed the instant body technique at the same time, joined the battle, stood beside the severely injured first and second generation Hokage, and confronted Uchiha Cheni. Cheni's expression was calm, but the excitement in his eyes was even greater. He didn't take a cage-level strongman seriously. 2 of them could hardly pose a threat to him. But now there are 5 of them. 5 cage-level strongmen attacked at the same time. Can he still solve it as easily as before? It's getting more and more interesting. Simulation failed. The result of this simulation appeared in the air again. Uchiha Cheni, who possessed the Lord of Elements, was ultimately unable to defeat the combined efforts of 5 cage-level masters. Although his 80 God's airstrike, which was blessed by the Lord of Elements, had terrible power, no one dared to face it head-on, and could only dodge or join forces to resist. However, performing such a move was originally a huge consumption. Even with Cheni's current chakra, it was impossible to perform it indefinitely. The 5 cage-level masters cooperated with each other, used tactics, and focused on consumption rather than fighting hard. In the end, Cheni ran out of chakra and lost. Although it was still a failure this time, the process was very different. The original biggest obstacle, the problem that the first and second generation Hokage reborn by the impure world reincarnation could be reborn infinitely, had been solved. Under the blessing of the Lord of Elements, his power was so strong that even the impure world reincarnation body could not recover. Even if he finally faced the combined efforts of 5 cage-level masters, the process was extremely thrilling, and he might not have no chance of winning. So, he soon started a new round of simulations again. Unfortunately, in the next few simulations, Cheni used a lot of strategies and even severely injured 2 of the 5 shadow-level masters. But in the end, there was still a thin line between victory. With the end of the simulation time, the 4th simulation finally came to an end. In this simulation, he gained no less than any previous one. To read the violent novel, go to Philo Novel Network. The master of the golden ability element has improved him in all aspects. With the approach of the Night of Genocide, he is very satisfied to have such an ability. After the simulation, according to the original plan, he should report to the Konoha Guard Department, and then accept new tasks, or some daily things. But because of the last time he killed the messenger of Union Village, Cheni has been under house arrest and was told that it is best not to leave his room. It just so happens that Cheni also needs enough time to simulate and practice to strengthen his strength step by step. So, there was no resistance. After the 4th simulation, Cheni was still immersed in practice, just like in the past when he recalled his experience and shortcomings in this simulation. After several simulations, he had gotten used to improving himself in this way. However, what he didn't know was that during his simulated training, people from the Cloud Shadow Village came and issued an ultimatum. Either go to war with the Cloud Shadow Village, or hand over Uchiha Chie who killed the Cloud Shadow Village envoy. As for why the Cloud Shadow Village envoy died, and whether the eldest daughter of the Hyuga clan of Konoha was kidnapped, the Cloud Shadow Village didn't care at all, and didn't acknowledge it at all. It was completely unreasonable and it was obvious that they were here to cause trouble. Against this background, the 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen was forced to summon the clan leaders of the various clans of Konoha, important members of the village, as well as Yuhi Kurenai, Azuki Yugao, Asuma, Hayate and Might Guy, who were closely related to this matter, to discuss together how to deal with this matter. Lord Hokage, if the Kumokage village wants to fight, then let them fight. Do we in Konoha fear them? Let's take this opportunity to show them some strength and let them know who is the real #1 ninja village. A patriarch who advocated war spoke first. His eyes widened and his face flushed red. He was obviously very angry about the extremely arrogant behavior of Union Village. It was obviously Union Village that stole the chicken but lost the rice, and now they dared to bite back. It was really unreasonable. Konoha was the well-deserved #1 ninja village. When had it ever been bullied like this? His speech quickly attracted the echo of many people present. That's it, a mere Cloud Shadow Village, kill him. Let him know how powerful our Konoha is. Lord Hokage, give the order. We will never surrender. The more they talked, the angrier they became. They wished they could have a big fight with the Cloud Shadow Village. The younger generation, Azuki Yugao, Yuhi Kurenai, and Might Guy, saw this scene and couldn't help but feel relieved. They were really afraid that they would hand Chenny over as the people of Konoha had said. That would be too worthless. They all knew very clearly who was to blame for this matter. But judging from the current situation, things should not develop in the worst direction they thought. However, at this moment, a somewhat discordant laugh interrupted everything. Hee hee, it's easy to say, but what about the reality? What right do we have to fight? Everyone looked over and found it was Danzo. The clan leader who had advocated the battle before snorted coldly and said contemptuously, Danzo, are you afraid? The Cloud Shadow Village dares to speak so arrogantly and underestimate our Konoha because of cowards like you, which makes outsiders think that our Konoha is cowardly and can be bullied. Danzo's expression was calm, and he did not change at all because of the ridicule of the clan leader. He said lightly, afraid. If I have a 50% chance of winning, I will choose to fight without any hesitation. But the key now is, do we have a 50% chance of success? Ever since the Nine Tails attacked Konoha and the fourth Hokage died, Konoha has reached an unprecedented moment of weakness. Orochimaru, one of the three ninjas, defected, and Tsunade and Orochimaru are nowhere to be found, so now it's up to me and the three old men to hold the fort. Let me ask you, can the current Konoha be a match for the Kumokage village? Once the war starts, what kind of blow will it bring to the villagers and ninjas of our Konoha village? And if we lose the war? Speaking of which, he paused for a moment, looked directly at everyone present, and said word by word, you are all the clan leaders of Konoha and the top leaders of Konoha. You should know how many people are watching us in secret, waiting for us to make mistakes. If we make any mistakes, I don't need to say what will happen to us. At this point, even the clan leaders who had been advocating for war were speechless. Because they knew that what Danzo said made sense. With the current Konoha, it is highly unlikely that they will be a match for the Cloud Shadow Village. If they lose the war, they will face unbearable losses. But, if we hand the person over like this, how will other ninja villages look at us? Wouldn't our reputation as the #1 ninja village in Konoha become a joke? After a while, someone spoke up. The relationship between Konoha and the Uchiha clan was tense, and they certainly didn't care about the life or death of an Uchiha clan member. What they really cared about was the face and interests of the entire Konoha. Danzo said, this is the uncle we have to bear. Either go to war or bear these, we must make a choice. Koko, that's enough. The clan leader wanted to argue something more, but was interrupted by the Sandai. The Sandai let out a long breath and said, Hiyashi, this matter was caused by your Hyuga clan. Tell me what you think. At this time, people focused their attention on the head of the Hyuga clan, and the father of Hinata Hyuga who was almost abducted, Hyuga Hiyashi. The Hyuga clan has the famous Byakugan bloodline in the ninja world, and also has a very high voice in Konoha village. Now this matter is caused by the Hyuga family. In a certain sense, Hyuga Hiyashi's words will greatly affect the outcome of this discussion. Yuhi Kurenai and Azuki Yugao also looked over, with a bit of hope in their eyes. Hinata is the daughter of Hyuga Hiyashi and the designated successor of the Hyuga clan. She is of great significance to the entire Hyuga clan. She was almost abducted by the messenger of the Cloud Shadow Village. Fortunately, Uchiha Chiya appeared in time and saved Hinata. Otherwise, the consequences would be disastrous. In terms of emotion and reason, the Hyuga clan will side with Uchiha Chiya. This is the most direct thought in the hearts of Azuki Yugao, Yuhi Kurenai, and Might Guy. However, as Hyuga Hiyashi spoke, their expressions changed. Even the high-ranking officials of Konoha and the clan leaders of Konoha, the real big men in Konoha village, could not help but be surprised. Only Danzo's mouth curled up slightly, revealing a cold smile. The third Hokage had a calm expression, unperturbed. Hyuga Hiyashi said, if giving up one person can exchange for the peace of the whole Konoha, even if it means giving up my life, I will not have any complaints. As soon as these words came out, the clan leaders and high-ranking officials who advocated the war could not sit still immediately, and directly questioned, Hiyashi, do you know what you are talking about? The Uchiha kid saved your daughter, are you so disloyal? Hyuga Hiyashi looked calm, and said to the Konoha high-level officials and clan leaders present, I said 107, this decision is not made for my Hyuga clan, but for the entire Konoha and the entire ninja world. We all know that Konoha can no longer withstand a major war. I know that I am sorry for the Uchiha child by making this decision, but... At this point, a trace of struggle and guilt flashed in Hinata Hiyashi's eyes, and he sighed and said, "It's just, I have no choice. For Konoha, for peace, I am willing to sacrifice my life, even Hinata's life." Everyone present was silent. Admittedly, Danzo's previous words might have made them want to refute, but Hyuga Hiyashi's words were different. As an eyewitness and the reputation he had accumulated in the past, his words could change many people's minds to a certain extent, and thus rethink the issue. For the so-called face, is it worth it to go to war with Union Village? But there are still some stubborn pro-war factions who still refuse to accept. However, compared to before, the number has decreased a lot. At this time, the third generation turned his eyes to Uchiha Fugaku, the patriarch of the Uchiha clan, who had been silent from beginning to end. Although the contradiction between Konoha and the Uchiha clan has become increasingly intensified, it has almost reached the point of being incompatible. In recent times, all ceremonies and meetings have avoided the Uchiha clan. But this time, after all, it is related to the Uchiha clan. As the patriarch of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Fugaku cannot be absent. The third generation looked at Fugaku and asked, "Fugaku, Cheni is a member of your Uchiha clan, what do you think?" Fugaku half closed his eyes, folded his arms and leaned back in his chair, without saying a word. CGFE. No one present, no matter how hot-tempered or how hostile to the Uchiha clan was, urged him. Because they all knew that this was a difficult and very important decision. Hyuga Hiyashi had already expressed his opinion. Now Fugaku's words could even directly determine the direction of this matter. If Fugaku agreed to hand over Uchiha Chiya, then everything would be settled. If he disagreed, then there would be room for discussion. This was the opinion of the vast majority of people present. However, this did not include Danzo and the third Hokage. Handing over Uchiha Chiya had already been decided. Now it was just a pretense to go through a process. For this reason, they also made a special trip to persuade the Hyuga clan. They believed that as long as they persuaded the Hyuga clan, then there won't be any real obstacles. As for the Uchiha clan, anyway, the night of the Uchiha clan extermination is coming, and the entire Uchiha clan will be destroyed. What's the use of their words? At that time, using a corpse to exchange for the peace of the entire Konoha, even the most determined pro-war faction will not refuse. However, even so, they are still a little curious. As the patriarch of the Uchiha clan, what decision will Uchiha Fugaku make? Time passed bit by bit. Everyone was waiting patiently without urging. They were afraid that because of themselves, things would develop in the opposite direction. After about a quarter of an hour, Uchiha Fugaku, who had hesitated for a long time, opened his eyes and said slowly, "I thought that although I am the patriarch of the Uchiha clan, I can't decide the life and death of any member of the Uchiha clan." "What do you mean?" someone nearby asked in doubt. Uchiha Fugaku said word by word, "Let Uchiha Cheni decide his own fate." Joke, he is just a kid. How can he understand what is trade-off, what is peace, and what is sacrifice? Someone nearby immediately said sarcastically, expressing his opposition. In their opinion, this is an obvious problem. Using one person's life in exchange for the peace of the entire village is acceptable to most people. But when that person is yourself, how many people can accept it? To read the exciting novel, go to Falu Novel Network. They don't think Cheni will have such a high level of awareness. Danzo also said, "Patriarch Fugaku, isn't this a bit too frivolous?" Fugaku shook his head and refused to give in. "I don't think so." At this time, the head of the Hyuga clan, Hyuga Hazashi, also said, "I agree with this matter. Uchiha Cheni should not have died in a confused state. He should know what he died for." Danzo frowned and was about to say something, but was interrupted by the third Hokage. "Well, since both Fugaku and Hiyashi said so, let's bring Uchiha Chiya over. Let's hear what he thinks." The third generation Sarutobi Hiruzen made the final decision. Danzo next to him frowned, his lips moved slightly, but in the end he said nothing. "Well, calling him over won't change anything anyway. Let the kid from the Uchiha clan die knowingly." Next to him, several Anbu ninjas who followed the third generation suddenly appeared and disappeared quickly. But after a while, when they reappeared, there was a young man beside them. It was Uchiha Cheni. After Cheni entered the conference room, his eyes swept through the people on the scene one by one. Even though he didn't know any news in advance, he still had some speculations in his mind. He noticed that in the corner of the conference table, Azuki Yugao, Shinri Kurenai, and Might Guy had concerned eyes. But more of them were the scrutinizing eyes of Konoha's senior officials and clan leaders, which made people feel a little uncomfortable. Everyone also looked at this young ninja who has become famous in recent days, killed Kuroki Raiga, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen, and killed the messenger of Kumokage village. They couldn't help but secretly praise him in their hearts. What courage! Those present were all the clan leaders of Konoha's various clans, and the worst were also high-ranking officials of Konoha. They were real big shots. Ordinary ninjas would inevitably be a little nervous and unnatural when they saw them. But Uchiha Cheni was able to remain calm and without any changes, as if he was seeing an ordinary person. Not to mention other things, just this courage alone has surpassed most of the ninjas in Konoha. Not to mention, Uchiha Cheni also has the ability to kill Kuroki Raiga, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen, and the messenger of Kumokage village. You know, these two are not easy characters to deal with. It's just a pity. He is a member of the Uchiha clan, but he encountered things that he shouldn't care about and offended people who shouldn't care about. Hokage, Uchiha Chie has been brought here. The ninja from the Anbu said to the 3rd generation Sarutobi Hiruzen. Yes, the 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded. The 2 ninjas from the Anbu understood and disappeared with a flash technique. Afterwards, the 3rd Hokage ordered someone to tell Uchiha Cheni about the current situation in general, and then asked, Cheni, this matter started because of you. I think you should know that, and I also want to know what you mean. Cheni did not answer directly after hearing this, but looked at Uchiha Fugaku. Fugaku nodded at Cheni. Cheni understood immediately. This is the biggest opportunity that Fugaku said he could get. Fugaku would not let the entire Uchiha clan and Konoha go to war in advance because of Cheni. He could only let him decide his own fate. After a slight pause, Cheni spoke directly and said word by word, I don't want to. This answer is not surprising. On the contrary, this is exactly the result of the inner speculation of most people present. This is a choice between life and death. How many people will choose death? Almost as soon as the voice fell, a group of people who advocated handing over Cheni in order to seek peace began to rebuke. I just want to say, he is just a child, what can he understand? It's useless to ask him to make a choice. It's just a waste of our time. Uchiha boy, you are so ignorant. To die for Konoha and for peace is an honor that many people dream of. Do you understand? Soon, the buzzing voices became louder and louder. Snap! The sonda slammed the table hard, making a crisp sound, and the chaotic order suddenly quieted down. Everyone also realized that it was not good to do this for a child's words. Danzo looked at Uchiha Fugaku with a smile and asked, Clan leader Fugaku, so, is this your answer? Yes. Uchiha Fugaku nodded, stood up, walked to Uchiha Cheni's side, protected Cheni behind him, and also expressed his attitude. Cheni was not surprised by this. Fugaku is the patriarch of the Uchiha clan, and the relationship between the Uchiha clan and Konoha is at a time when they are incompatible. Although Fugaku said that he would not go to war with the entire Konoha for Cheni, he would definitely not just watch Cheni being dealt with by Konoha. Otherwise, when the news gets back, the Uchiha clan will definitely be outraged, and he will no longer be the patriarch. No matter what the final decision is, at least he has to pretend. So, does the Uchiha clan have to be the enemy of our Konoha? Danzo half squinted his eyes, and there was already a hint of threat in his words. As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere of the whole meeting became tense. Those present were all real big shots in Konoha village. How could they not know about the conflict between Konoha and the Uchiha clan? In fact, it was precisely because of the existence of the Uchiha clan that Konoha fell into a dilemma and had to sacrifice its face to seek peace. Otherwise, with the reputation of Konoha as the #1 village in the ninja world, even if the 4th Hokage died and the 3 ninjas disappeared, they might not really be afraid of the Hidden Cloud village. It's just that the conflict between the Uchiha clan and Konoha has become more and more intense. If the war with the Cloud Shadow Village is added, I'm afraid Konoha will collapse in an instant. Now, Danzo openly questioned the Uchiha clan. Wave Fugaku, I wonder how Fugaku will respond. At this moment, everyone's eyes fell on Fugaku. Fugaku appeared calm, cold and fearless, but in fact, there were some waves in his heart. Cheni is a member of the Uchiha clan. He can't turn a blind eye, otherwise he will lose his prestige in the Uchiha clan. Even under the public outrage, it may directly arouse the conflict between the radicals and Konoha, triggering a war. At that time, the situation will become completely uncontrollable. This is something he absolutely does not want to see. So he has to come forward now. He is also betting that Konoha village will not dare to go to war with the Uchiha clan when there is a strong enemy like Union village outside. Fugaku said, Danzo, you are just one person, do you dare to represent the entire Konoha? Do you think you can represent the Hokage? When these words came out, the eyes of everyone present flashed. Back then, the Hokage dispute between Danzo and the current third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen caused quite a stir in the entire Konoha. In the end, Sarutobi Hiruzen won. This matter has always been a knot in Danzo's heart. But at this time, Fugaku brought it up in public and ridiculed it. With Danzo's temper, how could he let it go? He half squinted his eyes, with a gloomy face, and was about to explode when he was stopped by the third Hokage. The third Hokage looked at Fugaku and said lightly, Patriarch Fugaku, I have a suggestion. We are all the clan leaders and high-ranking officials of Konoha. Let's vote together to decide this matter. How about it? Fugaku thought for a moment, then turned his head to look at Cheni and asked what Cheni thought. Cheni nodded. He didn't care about these things at all. He was not something that these people could control now. He had the absolute strength to ignore all this. The reason why he stayed in Konoha and endured all this was just for the fifth simulation. Okay. Fugaku nodded and agreed to this. At the same time, he was relieved. Things finally did not develop to the worst. Yes. The third generation stood up and looked at the clan leaders and Konoha's high-ranking officials present. Do you have any objections? Everyone shook their heads. As the third generation was preparing to speak and start voting, a weak voice suddenly came from the end of the meeting room. Hokage-sama, can we vote too? Everyone looked back, and it turned out that the one who spoke was a young Chunin. There were several young ninjas beside her. They were Azuki Yugao, Yuhi Kurenai, Asuma, Hayate, and Might Guy. Among them, except for Asuma, who was the son of the Hokage and was used to seeing these big shots, the rest seemed a little restrained. After all, they were too young in both age and experience. If they were not included in the facilities, such a meeting would not be accessible to them at all. Others also regarded them as small transparent people and did not take them seriously at all. Unexpectedly, they would stand up and speak at this critical moment of voting. The third generation looked at the few people in the corner and hesitated for a moment, and said, Since you have participated in this meeting, of course you have the right to vote. Hearing that they also had the right to vote, Yuhi Kurenai, Azuki Yugao and others had a flash of joy on their faces. Yuhi Kurenai let out a long breath, trying to calm her mind as much as possible, and then said, I don't agree to hand Uchiha Chiya over to the Cloud Shadow Village. I think what Cheni did was not only right, but also meritorious. It was the Kumokage village that was wrong. How could we Konoha succumb to the Kumokage village? Then, Azuki Yugao and Might Guy stood firmly beside Yuhi Kurenai. Asuma and Hayate were the only ones who did not vote. This also made everyone focus on the two of them. Might Guy next to him winked at Asuma and Hayate frantically. He didn't understand why he was still standing there hesitating. Cheni was their partner and teammate. But Asuma and Hayate still stood there. Asuma, what about you? What will you choose? The third generation stared at Asuma and asked. To read exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. Asuma half lowered his head, his brows tightly furrowed because of his inner hesitation. Others can't see anything, but it doesn't mean that he can't see anything. Most of those who advocate peace are close friends with his father, the third-generation Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, and some of them can even be said to obey his father's orders. In other words, to resolve the issue peacefully and hand over Uchiha Chiya was actually his father's intention. But, Uchiha Chiya, he was not wrong. Asuma's heart fell into endless entanglement. After a while, he raised his head and said word by word, I don't understand the so-called peace and sacrifice. I only recognize right and wrong. I think Uchiha Cheni did nothing wrong. If I encountered the same thing, I would make the same choice as him. Uchiha Cheni, you should not be punished. After saying that, he stood together with Yuhi Kurenai, Azuki Yugao and others. Following closely behind him was Hayate. At one time, several young people made their choices, all supporting Cheni. In this regard, those who advocated a peaceful solution to the matter could not help but feel unhappy. Or a few Chunin and Jonin worthy of voting with them. However, they did not say much. After all, this was the word of the Hokage. Moreover, those children could not change the situation too much. Cheni nodded secretly, and a few strands of warmth flowed through his heart. They were not of high status and young, but they were willing to fight for this step for him. Especially Asuma and Hayate was even more unexpected. These two people have never gotten along well with him. Now at this critical moment, they still withstood the huge pressure and stood on his side. Asuma, Hayate, these two people are not without merit. Konoha is not all foolish and cowardly, and only seeks pleasure. It's just a pity that with these corrupt senior officials, many people are destined to not be able to make a name for themselves. The votes of several young ninjas did not cause much waves. Soon, the rest of the people also began to vote. They were much simpler. Because what to say and what it meant had been made very clear in the previous discussions and debates, and there was no need to say it again. Among the clan leaders and Konoha senior officials present, those who originally advocated war occupied the majority. It was just that after Danzo, especially the Hyuga clan leader Hyuga Hiyashi, spoke, many people present were shaken. It also made this vote more suspenseful. The voting was completed quickly. Azuki Yugao, Yuhi Kurenai and others carefully counted the numbers at the first time. 1.2 ideographic comma, 12, 22. One more. We have one more person on our side. Yuhi Kurenai said excitedly. Azuki Yugao and Might Guy beside her also had happy expressions on their faces. The faces of the peace advocates on the other side were a little ugly. At this moment, someone suddenly said, "Don't worry, there is still one person who hasn't voted." Everyone looked over and saw that the only person who had not expressed his opinion was sitting upright on the chair. It was the Hyuga clan leader, Hyuga Hiyashi. Everyone present remembered Hyuga Hiyashi's previous speech, and they all knew clearly what choice he would make. However, no one could have imagined that at the critical moment when Uchiha Chie was about to escape, the person who pushed him off the cliff was actually the father of the person he saved. This made the smiles on the faces of Azuki Yugao and Yuhi Kurenai gradually disappear. On the contrary, the peace-loving faction finally calmed down a little. Don't worry about whether you can win or not, at least you didn't lose. Hiyashi, it's your turn. The third generation said calmly. Hyuga Hiyashi stood up and walked forward step by step. Everyone around was shocked, because he was walking in the direction of Cheni. However, before they could fully recover, Hiyashi made another move that surprised everyone present. He bent down and bowed 90 degrees. The head of the Hyuga clan, who had a very high status in Konoha, paid such a great tribute to a young man. Uchiha Cheni, thank you for saving my daughter. I should stand on your side. But I have said before that even if I encounter the same thing myself, I will choose to die calmly. For the sake of Konoha and peace, I can only apologize to you. Sorry. After saying that, he stood up and walked to the side of the peace faction. Cheni got into such trouble in order to save Hyuga Hiyashi's daughter. But at this critical moment of life and death, Hyuga Hiyashi did not choose to stand with Cheni. He also said something that sounded very noble. However, Cheni did not have any aversion in his heart. First, the reason why he saved Hinata was just his personal thoughts and actions. He never thought about whether he could get any benefits by saving Hinata, or whether he could take the opportunity to get in touch with the Hyuga clan. Second, he knew very well that what Hyuga Hiyashi said was true. In the original development of the incident, it was Hyuga Hiyashi, the patriarch of the Hyuga clan, who saved Hyuga Hinata and killed the messenger of Uniing village. Faced with the same situation as Cheni now, he was willing to show his life in order to save the peace of the village. Later, although Hiyashi did not die, he also sacrificed the life of his own brother Hyuga Hiyashi. For the peace of the village, he was willing to sacrifice his life. This approach is of course respectable, but it does not mean that he agrees. After Hyuga Hiyashi voted, everything was settled. The votes from both sides were the same. Originally, I wanted to draw a conclusion based on this, but I didn't expect it to be like this in the end. At this time, Danzo whispered something about 8, 6, and 0 into the Sandai's ear. The Sandai nodded slightly, as if he agreed with Danzo's move, and then said, "The votes from both sides are the same, and it's difficult for me to make this decision. Why not put this aside for now? We all need to think carefully about what is the best way." All the high-ranking officials of Konoha and the clan leaders of each clan did not object. Today's talks have come to this point. It would be difficult to reach a conclusion even if we continue to talk. It would just be a waste of time. The best way is to discuss it later. What about Uchiha Chie? He already knows how we are going to treat him. What if he escapes during this period of time? Someone said. The peace advocates nearby agreed with him and shouted, "That's right, lock him up. We can't just leave it alone like we did before." Most of the pro-war factions held an indifferent attitude. They never advocated war for Uchiha Chie, but just to save Konoha's face. Only a few people like Azuki Yugao and Yuhi Kurenai showed anger. But because of their low status, their words had no weight, so they had to keep silent. The third generation thought for a while, and said to Uchiha Fugaku on the side, "Clan leader Fugaku, Uchiha Chie is a member of your Uchiha clan, he is handed over to you." Fugaku nodded and agreed to this matter. Those people didn't say anything more. They were relieved to hand Cheni over to Fugaku. Fugaku had to be responsible for handing Cheni over to Fugaku, otherwise he would have to bear the responsibility. One Uchiha Cheni could run away, but could such a large Uchiha clan run away? This matter also came to an end. Uchiha Fugaku took Cheni away. Yuhi Kurenai and Azuki Yugao originally wanted to say something to Cheni, but in the end they were deterred. They had already offended a considerable number of Konoha's high-level officials and clan leaders in the previous voting. If they were to confront the Uchiha clan in public like this, the Chia clan showed too much intimacy, and it will be difficult for them to survive in Konoha in the future. Especially after this meeting, they are no longer as ignorant as before, and they have the best expectations for everything. For the first time, they really saw the corruption of Konoha. For the so-called peace, they can ignore right and wrong and sacrifice the lives of people who should have made contributions. This is the dark side of the seemingly beautiful and bright Konoha. After everyone left, the third generation deliberately kept Azuki Yugao, Yuhi Kurenai, Asuma and others. After this meeting, are you disappointed with Konoha? The third generation looked calm and spoke slowly in his usual kind voice. I dare not. Zuhi Hong and the others said hurriedly. Don't be fooled by the harmless appearance of the third generation, this is the Hokage. The more you grow up, the more you know that those who can become Hokage are not simple people. Don't be afraid. Maybe in your opinion, the actions of many people at today's meeting are incredible. However, this is also a temporary helpless act. Only when you stand high enough, have broader knowledge and richer experience, will you understand that in this life, not everything can be done according to your heart. You may not understand this now, but you will understand it one day in the future. The third generation's eyes passed from Asuma to Might Guy and the others in turn. You are all extremely talented among the younger generation of Konoha. In the future, Konoha will rely on you to continue to grow. Where the leaves of Konoha dance, the fire will never cease. The future of Konoha depends on you. What happened in today's meeting is the top secret of our Konoha, and it must not be spread out. We in Konoha can no longer withstand a change in a new place. Yuhi Kurenai, Azuki Yugao, and Asuma all nodded and agreed. Even after they fully understood the whole story, they couldn't help but be angry. Once it spreads, there will definitely be many people who have the same idea as them. This is especially true in the Uchiha clan. Therefore, this matter must be kept secret. As for the others, some people don't quite understand. They can't fully understand the words of the third generation, but for some reason, as the third generation finished speaking, the anger at the outcome of Cheni's treatment slowly subsided. All of this is for Konoha, there is nothing that can't be understood. It's just, is it really right to sacrifice Chenny's life for this? The novel was taken from the Raleigh's website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. They are still not sure, but they didn't ask again. On the other side, Fugaku took Chenny out of the meeting room and took him to the Konoha Guard Department. In order to reassure the Konoha high-ranking officials, I have no choice but to inconvenience you by keeping you here for the time being. I will send someone to arrange everything. The environment here is not too good, but it won't be too hard either. Chenny nodded. It didn't matter where it was. What was important was the fifth simulation of the system. He wanted a space where he would not be disturbed at all. To read exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. That was enough. As for the environment, it really didn't matter. Before leaving, Fugaku said, "Don't worry, I will do my best to keep you safe. Even if I can't guarantee you safety, I will try to delay the time. 3 months, at most, I can prepare everything. By then, we will kill Danzo and have the capital to negotiate with Konoha, and you will be safe." After saying that, he left directly. Chenny was imprisoned in the prison. As expected, I have finally arrived here. Chenny looked at the surroundings and recognized that this was the prison where he was imprisoned during the fourth simulation. After calming down a little, he immediately sat down and began to practice. As for what Uchiha Fugaku said before he left, he didn't care at all. It was just a joke. 3 months. I'm afraid there won't even be 3 days. The night of the Uchiha clan extermination planned by Danzo and tacitly approved by the third Hokage is coming soon. There is no time for you to prepare. It's the same as before. Fugaku is not a bad person. If he is in a more peaceful and stable environment, he will also be a good clan leader. However, under the current situation, Fugaku is somewhat incompetent, indecisive, weak and lacking in foresight. It is not surprising that the Uchiha clan has fallen into the current situation. In the shadows outside the Konoha Guard, the masked man stood alone, staring at the Konoha Guard, wondering what he was thinking. After a while, a white figure slowly emerged from a tree next to him. "He, do you want to accept Zebo Renye into our organization?" The white figure asked. "Yeah," the masked man nodded. He is a man of merit, but he has to sacrifice his life for the so-called peace. Being betrayed by the village, Uchiha Fugaku did not show a tough attitude. He must be filled with anger. "Yes," the white figure chuckled, and then continued. "The important thing is that our organization is short of manpower, and Uchiha Chenny is strong enough to be a member of our organization." But why didn't he resist? With his strength, if he wanted to leave, there would be few people in Konoha village who could stop him. Speaking of this, the white figure couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. He had personally seen Chenny kill Kurochu Raiga with his own eyes, clean and neat, without any drag. Such a master, even if he is not at the level of Kage, is not much different. Why did he just sit there and wait for death? The masked man didn't speak. He was also a little puzzled. 0.2 He had personally witnessed Uchiha Chenny's power, such speed and responsiveness, even he suffered some losses due to his carelessness. Such strength must have reached the level of Kage. Why did he just sit there and wait for death? At night, Uchiha Chenny was sitting on the bed meditating and practicing, and there was silence all around. He suddenly opened his eyes, and his Sharingan began to work, turning blood red. However, it was not the Mangekyo Sharingan, but the ordinary 3 Magatama Sharingan. Unless it was in a simulation, or when it was absolutely necessary, he was not willing to reveal his full strength. The next second, a vortex appeared in front of him in the void. Then a figure slowly emerged. It was the masked man. "It's you." Chenny looked calm, and even seeing the masked man did not cause any big fluctuations in his heart. Because now he has the strength. "It's me, but don't get too excited, I mean no harm. In fact, I came here just for you," the masked man said in his usual deep and majestic voice. Oh, Chenny's eyes flashed. He was the meritorious person who saved the eldest daughter of the Hyuga family, but he was treated like this. Not only is there no reward, but you also have to take the blame for the so-called peace. Are you really willing to accept your fate? The masked man persuaded him patiently, and his voice seemed to carry a kind of magic that made people change their emotions unconsciously. Chenny seemed to understand why the masked man came to him. Was it to recruit him? As far as he knew, the Masked Man's organization, Akatsuki, had gone through 3 stages of development. The first was the period of development. It was a mercenary organization that did not belong to any country. It continued to expand its members and grow its power, so as to accept more tasks and gather a lot of money. The second was the period of capturing tailed beasts. The main purpose was to collect tailed beasts, to manufacture tailed beast weapons, and to use tailed beasts to conquer the world. The third was Akatsuki during the Fourth Ninja World War. With the help of Kabuto Yakushi, they used the Impure World Reincarnation and 100,000 White Zetsu to show incredible power, and even needed, the entire ninja world needs to unite to fight. Judging from the time, the current Akatsuki should still be in the first stage, that is, the period of survival and development. The Akatsuki at this stage is not the first terrifying organization that people will be terrified of in later generations. Its members are not yet complete, and its strength is far from strong enough. Therefore, he became the target of the Masked Man, to join Akatsuki. After the night of the Uchiha genocide, even if he could survive safely, Konoha could no longer accommodate him. He must find another place to go. Akatsuki may be a good choice. The Masked Man put his hands behind his back, maintaining his usual majestic and deep appearance. Chenny did not answer, nor did he react much. These were all within his expectations. During this period of time, he had already learned a lot of information about Uchiha Chenny through various means. He knew what kind of person Chenny was. If he had a big reaction because of his words, it would make him more suspicious. "What do you want to do?" After a while, Chenny spoke. The Masked Man said, "I can save you." "Save me?" Chenny asked back. "Yes, save you, and only I can save you." The Masked Man stared at Chenny closely, as if he wanted to see something from Chenny's face. "I know that with your strength, Konoha can't stop you if you want to leave. I'm not talking about this, but another more dangerous crisis." Chenny didn't say anything, his face was as calm as before. He already knew what that huge crisis was. "What do you think of the Uchiha clan?" The Masked Man suddenly asked. "Ignorant, corrupt, arrogant, weak, and hopeless," Chenny replied. The Masked Man was moved. Very good, he was right. Uchiha Chenny was not sociable since he was a child. He had no friends and no sense of belonging. But he was also a very smart and scheming person. After such people truly saw the corruption and darkness of the Konoha high-level officials and the Uchiha clan, they would often burst out with the most extreme thoughts. And this was exactly what he needed. Yes, this is the Uchiha clan, they have long been beyond redemption. So, I decided to destroy it. Destroy the Uchiha clan, the largest clan in Konoha. It sounds a bit arrogant. But Chenny knows that the Masked Man does have this ability. However, he can't reveal all of this, so he still pretends to be a little surprised and asked, "Is this the more dangerous crisis you mentioned?" Destroy the Uchiha clan. This is the night of the Uchiha clan extermination." The Masked Man's voice was still calm, but it was enough to stir up huge waves in the hearts of those who heard it. Such news was shocking enough. Besides me, Uchiha Itachi from the Uchiha clan also participated in the mission. Konoha's root organization, Danzo, and the top leaders will cooperate with our operation. In addition, there are some shadow-level strongmen hiding in the dark to ensure that this mission can proceed smoothly without any accidents. The night of the Uchiha clan extermination is inevitable, and no one can stop it. Even if it's you, it won't work. Chenny narrowed his eyes little by little, and his expression became more and more serious. Although all this was just an act, the Masked Man was obviously very satisfied with this performance, thinking that he had won. "What do you want from me?" Chenny asked. "Come with me, join my organization, and you can avoid the Uchiha clan extermination night." The Masked Man said lightly. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Avoid the Uchiha clan extermination night. It seems that it is not impossible. Chenny was stunned. He worked so hard and went through so many simulations, but in the end he spent the Uchiha clan extermination night in this way. It was really unexpected, but it was reasonable. After all, with his current strength, it was not surprising that he was favored by the Masked Man. "Do you really want to join? To survive in a more secure way?" Chenny had such a question and was still hesitant. To read the exciting novels, go to Philo Novel Network. The Masked Man continued. Where there is light in this world, there must be darkness. If you want to protect peace, war will definitely be triggered, but I have a way to create a world with only winners and only peace. So, I founded an organization, Shao, to help me create such a world together. Chenny, join my organization, you will not be disappointed. Chenny groaned in silence. The masked man did not ask any more questions, but just said, I can give you time to think about it, but it won't be too long. I hope that next time I come to you, you have made the right decision. After he finished speaking, a vortex appeared in the air, and the masked man's body slowly twisted and gradually disappeared. Qian Yi was the only one left in the prison again. All along, he subconsciously regarded the masked man as an enemy. He didn't expect that when the night of genocide was really approaching, there would be such a big reversal. It really makes people feel that things in the world are unpredictable. If he made this choice, if nothing unexpected happened, he would not even need to put in any effort to get through the Uchiha genocide night smoothly. As for possible accidents, he was not afraid at all. Anyway, before the night of genocide began, he still had the fifth simulation, and no matter what happened, he would be able to detect it in advance. Now, what he has to consider is, do he really want to do this? On the other side, on the Hokage rock of Konoha village, a masked man stood alone with his hands behind his back. Behind him, Uchiha Itachi walked over step by step. What do you want to talk to me about? Itachi asked. The masked man didn't turn around, and said lightly, an old friend of yours may join us. When that plan comes, we will have one less hidden danger. Old friend. Uchiha Itachi narrowed his eyes, thought for a while, and then asked, Uchiha Chie. Said the masked man. It was indeed him. Itachi frowned slightly, with no expression of joy or sadness. After a slight pause, he asked, why do you want Uchiha Chenny to join? Because he is strong enough to join our organization, and our organization happens to be in need of people. The masked man turned around and looked at Itachi, saying jokingly, why, he is a member of the Uchiha clan and an old friend of yours, I thought you would welcome him. But now it seems that it is not the case. Itachi said calmly, this is not something I can decide. You know the deal between me, the third generation, and Danzo. It's not that I can't tolerate Uchiha Chenny, but that they can't tolerate. I have no choice but to take action. After saying this, he turned and left, but before he had gone far, the voice of the masked man came from behind him. Itachi, don't underestimate Uchiha Chie, he is very powerful. Itachi did not look back. He never underestimated anyone. No matter what kind of opponent he faced, he would go all out and remain cautious. Moreover, this was the second time that the masked man who claimed to be Uchiha Madara emphasized the power of Chie. He had already placed Chie on the same level. Uchiha Chie could not stay. This was for the promise with Danzo, for Sasuke, and for Konoha. Such a big threat must not be left behind. However, before that, he still needed to inform the third generation and Danzo of the news. But too much after a while, Itachi appeared silently in the office of the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. At that time, the night had fallen and it was already dark, but the third Hokage, who was known for his diligence, was still correcting the documents that seemed to never end. The moment Itachi appeared, the pen in the third Hokage's hand suddenly paused, and then continued to move. Although the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen's strength was not as strong as the first and second Hokage, he was definitely not weak. It's not that Itachi entered his office and he didn't know anything. Itachi, you are here. The third generation did not raise his head and continued to review the documents. Uchiha Itachi walked out of the darkness little by little and bowed to the third generation. You're here so late, what happened? The voice of the third generation was a little old, but gentle and kind, unconsciously giving people a very stable and trustworthy feeling. This is also one of the reasons why Itachi believed that Konoha would definitely fulfill its promise with him. He didn't trust Danzo, but he believed in the third generation. Uchiha Chenny might join the masked man's organization. Itachi didn't beat around the bush and came straight to the point. The Sonda frowned and paused holding the pen. Since he had decided to kill, he had to kill them all. The fewer people who knew, the better. Uchiha Itachi was indispensable in the night of genocide. And he trusted Uchiha Itachi. As for the masked man, although he didn't trust him, with Uchiha Itachi always watching him, nothing should go wrong. He could barely accept it. But Uchiha Cheni, one more person means one more hidden danger. Just now, the masked man asked me to meet him and told me this news. He also reminded me that Uchiha Chiya is very strong. Itachi calmly told the Sanda the information that the masked man had talked to him. The Sanda squinted his eyes, looking thoughtful. He noticed two words, very strong. Uchiha Chiya is very strong. Such an evaluation coming from the unfathomable masked man who claimed to be Uchiha Madara could not help but attract his attention. The Uchiha clan, Uchiha Shisui before, Uchiha Itachi later, and now there is another Uchiha Chiya. Our plan, does Uchiha Cheni know about it? The third generation asked. Maybe, Itachi replied. Since the masked man intends to recruit Uchiha Cheni, he should have told him all the information. The third generation did not say much about this. Because he knew that since the masked man told Uchiha Cheni the news, it meant that Uchiha Cheni would not leak the news. After all, in this plan, the reason why the masked man, if you decide to do something, you must have some interests to gain. You will never leak the news so easily. Has Uchiha Chiya also opened the Mangekyo Sharingan? The third Hokage asked after a while. As far as he knew, the original Uchiha Chiya was just an ordinary Jonin who opened the three Magatama Sharingan. He could be considered good at most in Konoha. Even though he later killed Kuroki Raiga, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen, and the messenger of the Cloud Shadow Village, he didn't care too much. Because, whether it was Kuroki Raiga or the messenger of the Cloud Shadow Village, they certainly couldn't be said to be weak. But it also depends on who they were compared with. Compared with ordinary Jonin, of course, he was considered powerful. But he was definitely not to the point that the masked man who claimed to be Uchiha Madara said he was very strong. In other words, even if the previous Uchiha Chiya had hidden his strength, he was at most an elite Jonin. It was absolutely impossible for him to reach the level of Kage. It made no sense that a Kage-level strongman appeared in Konoha, and he, as the Hokage, knew nothing about it. This is simply impossible, he was sure of it. Unless, there was a sudden huge improvement in strength. This kind of improvement is of course hard to see in ordinary ninjas. But the Uchiha clan is different. They have a way to increase their strength in a short period of time. That is to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan. Uchiha Itachi was stunned. Mangekyo Sharingan, he carefully recalled the previous few meetings with Cheni. He did not notice anything unusual. There are two possibilities for this situation. Either Uchiha Cheni really did not awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan, or the other party's pupil power is still above his. But, does this second possibility really exist? He instinctively felt that it was unlikely. The Mangekyo Sharingan is not so easy to awaken. After a slight hesitation, Itachi said again, I heard from the masked man that Uchiha Cheni has extraordinary physical skills. Extraordinary physical skills. The third generation thought about it for a moment, and couldn't help but feel relieved. That's right, the conditions for opening the Mangekyo Sharingan are very harsh. It requires the stimulation of hatred, and even more so, unparalleled talent. Over the past thousands of years, only a few people in the Uchiha clan have been able to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan. This generation already has Uchiha Shisui and Uchiha Itachi. If there is another Uchiha Chiya, it would be too exaggerated. Physical skills, extraordinary physical skills. Is this the ability of Uchiha Chiya that the masked man values? The third generation still felt that it was a little unreliable, but compared to Uchiha Chiya awakening the Mangekyo Sharingan, he still prefers to believe that it was this unparalleled physical skill that attracted the attention of the masked man. Itachi, what do you think we should do about this matter? Uchiha Itachi said, I am willing to listen to the instructions of the Hokage. Yes, the third generation nodded. He trusted Uchiha Itachi's loyalty very much. Uchiha Chiba must not be left alive. A somewhat cold voice suddenly came out from the darkness. Then, Danzo slowly walked out. Neither Uchiha Itachi nor the third generation was too surprised. In fact, he knew Danzo was there when Itachi came in. However, Danzo did not say anything, so he just pretended not to know. I don't trust him and I absolutely cannot let him survive the night of the Uchiha clan extermination. Hiruzen, you should know that once this plan is revealed, it will have a huge impact on you, me, and even the entire Konoha. Uchiha Cheni must not be left behind. This time, after the last meeting, Uchiha Chie must have developed a deep hatred towards our Konoha. Keeping him here would be a disaster. We will pay the price for this sooner or later. Itachi, I order you to kill him. You have the Mangekyo Sharingan, he will not be your opponent. Danzo looked at Uchiha Itachi and gave the order. To read exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. Itachi frowned slightly, but did not say much, nor did he follow the order. He has always hated Danzo. He hated this condescending attitude even more. If it were not for his inner concerns, he might have been unable to help but attack Danzo and avenge his good friend Uchiha Shisui. Seeing that Itachi did not say a word, Danzo's face became even gloomier, and his heart was full of anger. However, he did not explode. Because now he still needs Uchiha Itachi to do things for him, there is no need to make the relationship too stiff. He looked at the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen again and said, Hiruzen, you must make a decision as soon as possible. You know, Uchiha Cheni already knows our plan. Every moment he lives as a threat to us. No one can be sure that he will not reveal our plan. Once, the masked man was wrong, causing Uchiha Cheni to tell the news to the Uchiha clan. What kind of severe situation will our Konoha face? With the Uchiha clan inside and the Kumokage village outside, we must never see such a situation happen, absolutely not. Danzo's words made the third generation frown even tighter. Originally due to old age, there were many wrinkles on his face, but now it looks more like a crumpled paper. Yes, although, he prefers to believe that the masked man will not make any mistakes. But who can be absolutely sure that there will be no mistakes? The probability is not high, but what if? The Uchiha clan is the largest clan in Konoha. Although their strength is not as good as that of the entire Konoha, it should not be underestimated. If the plan is leaked and the Uchiha clan is prepared in advance, what a difficult situation they will face, and what huge losses they will suffer. Thinking of this, the third generation couldn't help but let out a long breath, and made a decision in his heart. He raised his head, looked at Itachi and said, Itachi, in order to implement the plan smoothly, I can only let you go. Uchiha Itachi nodded, used a flash technique, and left directly. In Konoha's prison, Uchiha Cheni was practicing. Although he already knew that he could survive the Uchiha clan extermination night smoothly, he still did not relax his vigilance. For him, the clan extermination night is definitely not an end, but just a stage. He still has a long way to go, and he will encounter many more powerful opponents and more difficult problems. Only his own strength can guarantee that he can survive smoothly. He had understood this truth a long time ago. So he had to practice hard and improve himself step by step. But suddenly, Uchiha Cheni, who was originally practicing, opened his eyes and said lightly, You are here. In the darkness in front of him, Uchiha Itachi slowly walked out. He looked cold and had a hint of murderous intent. Cheni seemed to realize something. But he didn't care too much. After all, with his current strength, there are really not many things that can make him care. He noticed that in addition to Uchiha Itachi, there were several forces spying around. One of them was very powerful, the masked man, and the others were much weaker. They were probably some ninjas from the Root organization. I'm here to kill you. You know something you shouldn't know, so I have to take action against you. Uchiha Itachi said straight to the point without hiding anything. In response, Cheni just chuckled. He had encountered the same scene countless times. But this time, it was in real life, not a simulation, nor on the night of genocide. Itachi seemed to be a little irritated by Cheni's calm expression, which made him feel looked down upon. And this feeling was something he had never encountered since he grew up. Qian Jiao. Without saying much, he took action directly. A kunai suddenly appeared in Itachi's hand. However, Cheni ignored it at all, and punched back in a posture that an ordinary person would never think of. But unexpectedly, this punch hit. Itachi was hit hard and fell to the ground. He frowned, with a hint of disbelief on his face. How could this be possible? From the moment he came in, the conversation with Cheni from beginning to end was just a clone, while his real body was hidden. The clone showed the kunai to attract Cheni's attention and create an opportunity for the real body hidden in the dark to kill with one blow. Each step was carefully planned by him. Ordinary people should not be able to see through it at all. How could it be possible? Chenny remained calm, with a hint of teasing in his expression. Itachi's plan was indeed powerful, but he had fought with Itachi dozens of times. He knew all of Itachi's moves. It is no exaggeration to say that Itachi just had an idea, and Chenny already knew what the follow-up action would be. This is how the current scene came about. Itachi slowly stood up from the ground and brushed off the dust on his body. The failure of the previous attack did not make him feel bad, but made him more excited. He hasn't encountered such a powerful opponent for a long time. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In this small prison, two figures were moving at an extraordinary speed. It was Uchiha Itachi who kept throwing kunai and shuriken to launch the attack, and Chenny who kept dodging. Originally, Chenny had many easier ways to defeat Uchiha Itachi. For example, Wood Release, or 80 Gods Air Attack, and the Lord of Elements, all of which could solve the opponent in a short time. But these were his secrets at the bottom of the box, and they could not be easily exposed, which made this battle a little troublesome. But it was only a little troublesome. As Chenny continued to gain golden abilities, his own strength was also growing at an extraordinary speed. His Otsutsuki physique was already far beyond what it was when he first got it. Whether it was agility, resistance to blows, self-healing ability, or the amount of chakra, there had been a huge increase. Now he didn't need to rely on other abilities at all. Just relying on the Otsutsuki physique, he could fight with a cage-level powerhouse like Uchiha Itachi without losing the upper hand. On the other hand, Uchiha Itachi felt much more uncomfortable. He had an inexplicable feeling, as if he had met his destined nemesis. He felt as if he had been seen through by Chenny. No matter what tricks he used, Chenny seemed to always be able to anticipate and prepare in advance. He was unable to use his strength, and it was as uncomfortable as it could be. But he couldn't do anything at all, there was no way. Not to mention how aggrieved he was. This couldn't go on. Itachi made a decision. After a short fight, he knew that it would be difficult to defeat Chenny with these, and he had to show some real skills. That was the illusion he was proud of. He didn't believe that Chenny could be better than him at this level of illusion. Uchiha Itachi stood in the distance in an instant, and at the same time, the Mangekyo Sharingan began to operate, emitting a blood-red light. At this moment, the masked man watching the battle and a group of ninjas from the Root organization and the Anbu couldn't help but shrink their pupils. All this was because of the Mangekyo Sharingan, a rare Mangekyo Sharingan in ancient times. They all knew that Itachi was going to get serious. Chenny was still calm. As for the Mangekyo Sharingan, he has it, but he cannot use it to hide his strength. However, he still used the 3 Magatama Sharingan to deal with it. The 3 Magatama Sharingan is far inferior to the Mangekyo Sharingan, but it is still somewhat useful. The direct competition of the Sharingan began. The 3 Magatama versus the Mangekyo. Logically, there should be no suspense, but it still made people's blood boil. The ninjas from the Root organization and the Anbu all breathed a sigh of relief. Itachi was serious. It seemed that this battle would be over soon. The masked man looked like he was watching a good show. Although he intended to recruit Chenny into the organization, it did not mean that he would take action. In fact, this was a level he set for Chenny. Only if he passed it successfully would he be qualified to join his organization. If he failed, he was not willing to conflict with Uchiha Itachi for this. Moreover, he also wanted to know how far Uchiha Itachi, a rare genius in the Uchiha clan, had come. The fight between the two had already begun. Although they seemed motionless, everyone knew clearly that the two had actually started a very fierce confrontation. This was an illusion. It was difficult for others to see what was going on. Only those who were truly present could see it. Only when you are in it, you will know the danger. This is especially true when facing the Uchiha clan who possesses the Mangekyo Sharingan. The Uchiha clan's Mangekyo Sharingan has a natural advantage in illusion. Their fights will be very different from those with other ninjas. Just like what they are seeing now. In just a short moment, Chenny has already had 3 illusion battles with Uchiha Itachi. Due to the restriction that he cannot show his Mangekyo Sharingan, many of Chenny's abilities cannot be used. But his pupil power is real. It will not increase or decrease depending on whether the Mangekyo Sharingan is revealed or not. This also makes him less passive in the illusion battle with Uchiha Itachi. After all, that is Uchiha Itachi's illusion. Even a cage-level strong man like him can't be used. Even the great Orochimaru had suffered a great loss under Itachi's illusion, so it must not be underestimated. Although he was in this small prison, in front of Chenny's eyes was an endless sea of fire. It was scorching and hot, and it was so real that it made people feel creepy from the bottom of their hearts. Uchiha Itachi floated and hung in the air, like a god in this world, who could control everything. He just waved his hand lightly, and the endless sea of fire set off huge waves in an instant, roaring and roaring like a terrifying beast, rushing towards Chenny. The reason why illusions are illusions is that all of this is an illusion, it is all fake. But only when you are in it, you will know how terrible illusions are. Obviously, the mind is very clear and knows that all of this is fake, but the body reacts involuntarily, and the feeling affected by that extremely hot and terrifying breath. But Chenny still looked calm, maintaining his usual indifference. He watched the scorching fire dragon rushing towards him, without dodging, or parrying. However, when the fire dragon really approached, it suddenly disappeared, and everything around it returned to its original appearance, and everything returned to calm. Uchiha Itachi frowned slightly. Chenny was much more difficult to deal with than he thought. This difficulty was not because Chenny blocked his attacks several times in a row, but because of the way Chenny blocked the attacks. Just standing there, he could see through everything. No matter how realistic the scene was, it could not be hidden from his eyes. Just in terms of the 3 Magatama Sharingan, it was already considered extremely strong. To read the violent novel, go to Philo Novel Network. At least, before he evolved into the Mangekyo Sharingan, he did not have such an exaggerated ability. CGDI, Chenny had a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. These illusions are of course very powerful, and they are enough to deal with ordinary opponents. But he is obviously not an ordinary opponent. Even if many of his abilities cannot be displayed now, he is still a cage-level strongman just relying on this pair of 3 Magatama Sharingan and the physique of the Otsutsuki. It is a long way to defeat a cage-level strongman with this level of illusion. HMPH. Uchiha Itachi snorted coldly, somewhat annoyed by Chenny's attitude. All this was just a test, and he hadn't used his real trick yet. Tsukuyomi. Itachi Uchiha's eyes suddenly flashed with a strange, breathtaking red light. His unique Mangekyo Sharingan ninjutsu, Tsukuyomi, was performed in an instant. This ninjutsu is known as the most powerful mental attack. Once it hits the student's life or death, it will be completely under his control, and the victory of this battle can be decided immediately. However, the price to pay for this ninjutsu is also very huge. First of all, the power of the Mangekyo Sharingan is weakened, and then the consumption of his own chakra. Either of these two aspects will make him fall into a state of panic after releasing it. In weakness. If it fails to be released successfully, or is forcibly cracked by the opponent, it will backfire, and the consequences are quite serious. It must not be performed lightly without scruples. However, facing Chenny, Itachi has absolute confidence. This is not too arrogant, or contemptuous, but he knows too well the difference between the 3 Magatama Sharingan and the Mangekyo Sharingan. This gap is to the point where it can hardly be made up by anything else. Next to them, the Root organization, the Dark Ninjas, and the Masked Men realized what kind of ninjutsu Uchiha Itachi released, and their eyes flashed. Within this distance between the two, there is absolutely no reason for Chenny not to be hit by Tsukuyomi. And once he is hit, it will directly declare the end of this battle. It seems that in the end, Uchiha Itachi is still the better one. The Masked Man felt disappointed, but also felt that something was not right. If Chenny was so easy to deal with, how could he be stabbed? Why is Chenny's performance tonight different from what he knew? Or is there still a chance of turning this battle? With inner doubts, he stared closely at the two people in the prison. As Tsukuyomi was performed, Chenny entered Tsukuyomi world. The blood-red moon, the blood-red earth. Everything is red. Chenny was tied tightly to the cross, unable to move, but his expression was still calm, without any disturbance. Uchiha Itachi stood in front of Chenny with a samurai sword in his hand, with a hint of excitement on his face. He admitted that Chenny was indeed a formidable opponent. Whether it was physical skills, ninjutsu, or the understanding of illusion, he was no worse than him. However, he possessed the Mangekyo Sharingan and his exclusive eye technique Tsukuyomi, which allowed him to win this battle. Itachi said lightly, "You are careless. The three Magatama Sharingan and the Mangekyo Sharingan are not on the same level at all. Only those who have possessed it know how powerful it is. You can rest in peace if you die under my Tsukuyomi," he said as he walked towards Cheni step by step. And as he got closer and closer to Cheni, the number of Uchiha Itachi was also increasing. At first, there was only one person, and slowly it became 5, 10, and even more. At a glance, it was densely packed, everywhere, and it was hard to see clearly. Together, they walked towards Cheni step by step, until they came in front of him, raised the samurai swords in their hands at the same time, and then stabbed down suddenly. In reality, the red light of Uchiha Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan suddenly lit up, and then slowly dimmed, and then 2 blood tears meandered down his cheeks. He wiped away the blood and tears, rubbed his eyes, and felt dizzy and extremely weak all over. This was the sequelae of performing Tsukuyomi. But for some reason, the weakness brought to him this time was more serious than usual. But fortunately, it was all over. But at this moment, Uchiha Itachi's figure suddenly paused. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.